Chapter 4176. Yes. The man in black immediately lowered his head, covered in cold sweat. Although she didn't release any aura, the words that fell on his head were heavy, and he couldn't bear it. But you are one of us. Although this is a core secret, there's no harm in telling you. The mysterious woman's tone was still calm as she said, faintly, "This is the medicine that Professor Lee gave me through special channels. Once the test is successful, we can mass-produce original soul masters, helping us achieve great things." If these words were leaked out, it would definitely set off a storm. In the entire North Island of the Heaven Realm, the original infant stage cultivators were all top-notch existences, second only to the top few. However, from the mouth of this mysterious woman, they were like puppets that could be created at will. This was a huge event that could change the world. Ah, it's Professor Lee? The man in black, on the other hand, wasn't surprised at this point. He couldn't contain his excitement. Not only did he open up the passage between Heaven Island and the mortal world, but he also opened up the passage between Heaven Island and the Yanhuang Planet Transit Station. It's not really a passage. The mysterious woman shook her head and said faintly, "He used a special channel to send this medicine over. When we go to the mortal world, we're just sending things over. We can't go there for the time being, but we have to thank Zhang Liju for finding this loophole. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have found this loophole in the four-dimensional space." Four-dimensional space formation? This is what Sun Sikong set up all those years ago. The man in black raised a brow. That's right. That Sun guy thinks he's so smart, but he doesn't know that it's nothing difficult for Professor Lee. He has already told the way to break it to his disciple, Professor Benjamin too, and my clone in the mortal world has already started researching with him. As she said this, the mysterious woman's lips curled up. One day we will be able to travel between Heaven Island and the mortal world freely. We can freely travel between Heaven Island and the secular world, so I believe we won't have to wait too long. As the two were talking, a tremor came from the bottom of their feet, and there were traces of pure qi coming out. It seems like it's working. Go take a look, the mysterious woman ordered. The man in black took the order and left, but he was secretly shocked. This was their secret base in the North Island, and almost all of the top protective formations were used. Even the Island Master's pavilion of the North Island couldn't compare with this place. However, after the person below had been injected with the drug, the vital energy that his body emitted was actually able to penetrate the top-notch defensive array. It caused the entire base to tremble. It was simply inconceivable. After entering the underground chamber, the black-clothed man had only taken a step forward. Even with his strength, he was almost repelled by the raging and surging true energy. It was truly inconceivable. At this moment, the man in the bamboo hat was like a demon. His entire body was enveloped in an unprecedentedly powerful vital energy, giving off the feeling that the surrounding space was distorted, accompanied by the incessant howls of pain. His strength rapidly skyrocketed at a frightening speed. From the middle stage of the Golden Core Realm, in the blink of an eye, he jumped all the way to the peak of the Golden Core Realm. After that, there was a huge barrier between the Golden Core Realm and the Nascent Soul Realm. It was easily pierced through like a piece of paper in a window. In less than the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, the man in the bamboo hat had actually turned from the middle stage of the Golden Core Realm to an expert of the Nascent Soul Realm. This drug is really powerful. Even the black-clothed man couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this. Although he also knew that the more powerful the drug was, the more terrifying the side effects would be. Even so, just for the point of being able to mass-produce experts of the Nascent Soul Realm, this result of Professor Lee's could be said to be earth-shattering. However, before he could finish sighing, the man in the bamboo hat, who should have gradually calmed down, suddenly let out an even more heart-wrenching roar. Immediately after, the raging true energy suddenly increased again, quickly climbing to an even more shocking level. The black-clothed man's expression changed. Before he could do anything, he heard a muffled bang. The entire underground chamber was instantly covered with flesh and blood. It was shocking to see, and the man in the bamboo had actually exploded and died. Seeing this, the black-clothed man was shocked. He immediately turned around and went upstairs to report to the mysterious woman. So, this experiment is a failure. The mysterious woman shook her head regretfully. This was an experiment that could subvert the power structure of the Heaven Stage Island. Although she had long expected that the possibility of failure was not low, now that she faced the reality, she couldn't help but be a little disappointed. In my opinion, it can't be considered a complete failure. At least this kind of drug can indeed increase the strength to the nascent soul realm. It's just that it can't be maintained at the moment. The black-clothed man reported. Well, I have to report this to the headquarters. You go and dispose of the body. The mysterious woman ordered, turned around and entered the inner room. She used her special channel to report to the headquarters, and the black-clothed man responded and left. In the inner street of the market, Han's Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi, Shangguan Laner, Huang Xiaotao, and Hong Zhong sat together at a table, toasting happily. The reason why everyone came here this time was actually Shangguan Laner's idea. She wanted to hold a celebration banquet for Lin Yi, and Lin Yi happened to come to see his old friend, Hong Zhong, so everyone came to the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. As for why Huang Xiaotao appeared here, there was another reason. Well, since we have already celebrated for Junior Brother, now it's time to talk about business. Shangguan Laner suddenly cleared her throat. Oh, what business? Lin Yi and Hong Zhong looked at each other, confused. Only Huang Xiaotao, who was next to him, suddenly blushed and lowered her head slightly. Since I'm so serious, of course it's a big deal, and it's a lifelong event. Junior Brother, it's a good thing for you. You have to thank me, your senior sister. Shangguan Laner said mysteriously. Lifelong event? What's going on? Lin Yi was even more puzzled. Since you're so curious, then I won't keep you in suspense. Junior Brother, listen carefully. Senior sister Xiaotao likes you very much. You have to treat her well in the future. Shangguan Laner announced with a mischievous face. However, for some reason, when she said this, she suddenly had an inexplicable feeling of loss in her heart. Even though Shangguan Laner was a thick-skinned person, she could not help but feel a little strange. What was wrong with her? At this moment, when Huang Xiaotao heard this, her ruddy face instantly turned even redder, and she immediately buried her head deeper, not daring to look up. Today, Shangguan Laner specially asked her to come here for this matter. Because the event is about to be held, there will be a lot of gifts. You can also enter through the public account, Weixin Yurin 22. To be continued. Chapter 4177. At first, she thought that Shanghai Laner was just joking on a whim. She didn't expect that this little girl would really do it. For a moment, Huang Xiaotao was both happy and shy. There was no doubt that she liked Lin Yi, and now that Shangguan Laner, the real girlfriend, was personally matchmaking them, there shouldn't be any more obstacles now, right? Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect that Shanghai Laner would suddenly play such a trick on him. What should he do? This was not a private occasion. In front of Hong Zhong and Shanghai Laner, if he rejected her bluntly like last time, it would really hurt Huang Xiaotao's heart. Moreover, although Huang Xiaotao was blushing and didn't speak, Lin Yi could also see that this girl wanted him to nod. Huang Xiaotao's character was a typical soft on the outside, but hard on the inside. If Lin Yi refused at this time, she might still force a smile on the surface, but she would be sad and cry when she went back. This emotional injury would probably be difficult to recover from. However, Lin Yi didn't want to cause more emotional debts for himself. In this situation, he couldn't refuse or agree, so he could only helplessly say, as long as we get along, we'll get along slowly and let nature take its course in the future. N.N. Huang Xiaotao was overjoyed when she heard this. She nodded shyly. Although Lin Yi's words were not so resolute, it could already be regarded as a confirmation. In the future, when she was with Lin Yi, it would be fair and above board. That's great. Remember that I'm the matchmaker for you two. I'm the matchmaker for you two. Hee hee. Shanghai Laner teased with a smile, but the inexplicable sense of loss in her heart still lingered. Haha, the two of you are a match made in heaven. Young hero Lin, your good fortune is truly enviable. Congratulations, Hong Zhong said with a smile. Thank you very much, Manager Hong. Lin Yi didn't know how to explain to Hong Zhong, a bystander who didn't know the truth. He could only change the topic. Oh right, shopkeeper Hong. Other than Hutsai Tianwu Mountain, are there any other places where the life-growing mushrooms can be found? Speaking of which, his initial goal when he went to Mount Hutsai was to find the life-growing mushroom. However, he did not expect to accidentally discover the 10,000 golden dan fruit. After that, a series of events happened, and he was sent to Middle Island. Lin Yi had gained a lot in the past month, but he was missing the life-growing mushroom. It was also for this reason. Lin Yi did not go to the King of Junk for the past few days. Otherwise, even if Su Zhaohe had challenged him to a battle in public, he would have gone to the King of Junk to study the forging. Oh, young Master Lin, didn't you go to the North Island Cultivators Guild? Didn't you go look for them yourself? Hong Zhong couldn't help but feel strange. It's a long story. I did go to Mount Hutsai Tianwu Mountain, but before I could find the life-growing mushroom, I got into a fight with someone, and both sides were injured. After that, I was sent to Middle Island. I had no chance at all. Lin Yi shook his head and smiled bitterly. He also roughly told him what happened in Middle Island. Yes, we went to Mount Hutsai Tianwu Mountain together. That's how I met Lin Yi. Huang Xiaotao nodded and said, There's such a thing. I didn't expect young Master Lin to really go to Middle Island. Hong Zhong raised his eyebrows in surprise. He introduced Kai Zhongyang of Middle Island to Lin Yi just in case. He didn't expect it to really come in handy. Aside from surprise, Hong Zhong couldn't help but sigh in admiration when he heard about what Lin Yi did in Middle Island. Each and every one of those things was not a small feat as expected. Lin Yi was not an ordinary person. Yes, so now we're back to square one. I have to find another way to get the life-growing mushroom. If it doesn't work, I have to go to Mount Hutsai Tianwu Mountain again. Lin Yi said helplessly. He didn't know how long the King of Rags could wait, but anyway, the sooner he got the life-growing mushroom, the better. It's actually not necessary. As early as a month ago, I've already put up a bounty task for you in the Cultivators Guild of North Island. I guess there will be a result by the end of this month. Young Master Lin, you might as well wait a little longer. Hong Zhong smiled. That's great. Thank you, Manager Hong. Come on, let me propose a toast to you. Lin Yi was overjoyed and immediately raised his glass to thank him. West Island. Ning Xuefei had been playing in North Island for so long. Finally, she returned to her familiar home. But the first thing she did was not to see her mother, the owner of the island, but to find Han Jingjing. Jingjing, guess who I saw in North Island? Ning Xuefei hugged Han Jingjing, who was studying the automatic casting mechanism, and kept her guessing mysteriously. Who? Didn't you go to see Laner in Shanghai? Han Jingjing blinked her big eyes and asked in confusion. Of course I saw Laner, but I'm not talking about her. I'm talking about another person. He has a lot of connections with you, Jingjing. Ning Xuefei winked. Connections with me? I've never been to North Island. Who would have connections with me? Han Jingjing was even more confused. Who said no? The person I saw in North Island this time is the person you've been thinking about day and night. Ning Xuefei said with a smile. Could it be Brother Lin Yi? Han Jingjing's eyes suddenly lit up. She held Ning Xuefei in her arms and said excitedly, He, it's him. Ning Xuefei said, She took out a small box from her arms, in which there were 3 highest grade elixirs. She handed them to Han Jingjing and said, "Here, these are refined by your brother Lin Yi. Put them away quickly." Highest grade foundation building elixirs. Han Jingjing was surprised and happy. She couldn't help but ask, "Does brother Lin Yi know I'm here?" "No, I haven't told him yet. I'm thinking of taking you there next time and giving him a big surprise." Ning Xuefei stuck out her tongue. "Going to North Island?" Han Jingjing nodded repeatedly. Her face was full of expectation. Then she pulled Ning Xuefei and asked impatiently, "Fei Fei, how is brother Lin Yi now? Tell me quickly." Ning Xuefei immediately told Han Jingjing everything she had experienced after she went to North Island. Because of Lin Yi, Han Jingjing listened very attentively. Even if it was just a little trivial thing, she would unconsciously feel nervous and happy, especially when she heard that Si Haixiao flirted with the 2 girls and Lin Yi stepped forward. She was so nervous that she didn't dare to breathe, until she heard that 5 disciples in gold core stage stepped forward. She patted her chest and breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Lin Yi went to Cultivators Guild in North Island. What happened later? Did he find the mutual growth mushroom? Han Jingjing asked. To be continued. Chapter 4178. I don't know. I haven't heard from him since he left for half a month. Then I came back, so I don't know how he is now. Ning Xuefei shook her head helplessly. Well, isn't it said that Hutsai Mountain is very dangerous? I'm very worried about brother Lin Yi. Han Jingjing was worried. Suddenly she blinked her big eyes and said, "Fei Fei, why don't you write to him and ask?" "Okay. To be honest, I'm also a little worried. I'll write to Lanner and ask." Ning Xuefei agreed readily and immediately wrote a letter. After sending it out, the 2 women were still chattering about Lin, but this time it was the opposite. Ning Xuefei took the initiative to pester Han Jingjing to tell her about Lin Yi's various things in the secular world. Although Han Jingjing had mentioned it before, she didn't know who Lin Yi was at that time, and she didn't think there would be any intersection between them, so she didn't take it seriously at all. But now it was different. Not only Han Jingjing, his real girlfriend, was concerned about Lin Yi's affairs, but she, the little princess of West Island, was also inexplicably worried about him. In the North Island, it had been a few days since he killed Su Zhaohe with one move last time. In the face of Lin Yi's strong and domineering return, except for a lot of discussion in the 3 pavilions, no one dared to trouble him for a while. If Lin Yi was just a normal number 1 newbie, there'd be a lot of people coming to cause trouble for him, whether it was for fame or profit. But now, he'd killed Su Zhaohe in 1 hit. Even in the history of the 3 pavilions, he was undoubtedly the number 1 newbie in the history of the 3 pavilions. With such strength, even if he was a newcomer, he was definitely a top-notch existence in the 3 pavilions, and ordinary people couldn't afford to offend him. Coming to find trouble was completely courting death. Who dared to provoke him? As for those who were stronger than Lin Yi, although it wasn't to say that they didn't exist, they were either the direct disciples of those top big shots, or they were famous people like the hall master of the law enforcement hall, Gong Yangjie. Unless there was a huge conflict of interest, they wouldn't come looking for trouble with Lin Yi. After all, Lin Yi wasn't just strong. After the last battle, news of Shangguan Tianhua's favor had spread throughout the 3 pavilions. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to make a move on Lin Yi. They had to consider Shanghai Tianhua's attitude. Therefore, in recent days, Lin Yi had a rare leisure time. Except that Shanghai Laner occasionally brought Huang Xiaotao to chat with him. What he had to do every day was to go to the Hong's Chamber of Commerce to wait for the news of the growing mushroom, or to practice in the cave residence to stabilize his realm. A high-level battle of life and death was enough to make up for months of hard work. This was common knowledge in the cultivation world. And when Lin Yi fought against Su Zhaohe, even though it was not intense and could only be regarded as a small test, it was still a real battle of life and death. In addition, Lin Yi had been practicing hard during this period of time. Now, not only had he completely stabilized his early golden elixir realm, but there were even signs of a breakthrough. Above the early golden elixir realm was the peak of the early golden elixir realm. Such a speed was not only shocking, but even Lin Yi himself felt that it was incredible. This speed was comparable to when he broke through from the early foundation establishment stage to the peak of the early foundation establishment stage. It completely overturned the common sense that the higher the level, the harder it was to break through. It could only be said that the so-called perfect breakthrough and the so-called strongest golden elixir realm master were not empty words. If this continued, the day when Lin Yi became truly invincible in the golden elixir realm would not be too far away. Finally, in this slightly leisurely wait, Lin Yi finally received news from Hongzhou. The life-growing mushroom was in his hands. Just like its name, the life-growing mushroom was a combination of all known characteristics, and each characteristic had its own representative color. Therefore, at first glance, the life-growing mushroom could be described as colorful. More importantly, its color was not unchanging, but it could change at any time. The pattern of change was in accordance with the surrounding environment, naturally blending with the environment. It was an extremely brilliant protective color. It was already very rare, and with this layer of protective color that could change at any time, unless it was an experienced collector, it would be difficult to detect. It was not difficult to understand why the life-growing mushroom was so rare in the market. With the life-growing mushroom, Lin Yi immediately went to the king of Junk's secret base. When he found the king of Junk in the cave, this guy was still carefully controlling the fire. His expression was focused, and he did not dare to let his guard down. "Brother Wang, you've worked hard these past 2 months. Lin Yi will remember your hard work and hard work." Lin Yi could not help but be moved. "Hey, Brother Lin, what are you saying? I've been entrusted with a task, and this is all part of my duty. Moreover, I was the one who suggested it. With such an abnormal situation, if I don't keep a close eye on it, wouldn't I be letting down so many of your top-level materials?" The king of Junk saw Lin Yi and was both surprised and happy. He waved his hand and laughed. Although he spoke calmly, Lin Yi was still very touched. It was a simple sentence of being entrusted with a task, but it had been more than 2 months, and he did not even know if it would succeed. He had insisted on guarding this place. If it were anyone else, they would not be so honest. Perhaps once Lin Yi left, he would have already sneaked away. Even putting aside the forging, the king of Junk was definitely worthy of the word righteousness. To be able to make a friend like this, it was worth it. This is the life mushroom and the other materials you listed. Have a look, Brother Wang. Lin Yi patted the king of Junk's shoulder heavily. Without saying anything else, he immediately took out all the repairing materials. Great! The king of Junk was overjoyed. He took the materials and checked them carefully one by one until he was sure that they were all of high quality. He then nodded affirmatively. There had been an accident before, so the next remedy was very important. If he failed again, it would be a complete failure. Therefore, he could not afford to make any mistakes. How about it? Can we start again? Lin Yi asked expectantly. Well, let's not delay. Although there were not many changes in the past 2 months, some things can't be observed with the naked eye. It's not a good thing to delay for too long. Let's start now. The king of Junk took a deep breath and immediately increased the heat. The originally lukewarm forging pool began to boil again. Then, the king of Junk mixed the materials given by Lin Yi and added them into the forging pool one by one. Then he guided them to the iron lump in the middle. Lin Yi watched all this attentively. Even with his calm temperament, he could not help but feel nervous at this moment. He had spent so many materials and energy on this casting. The success or failure depended on this move. Floating astronomy. Chapter 4179. They held their breath and stared at the lump of iron in the casting pool for half an hour. When Lin Yi and the King of Junk couldn't help but look at each other, thinking that they had failed, the lump of iron finally reacted. The reaction was very, very slow, so subtle that ordinary people couldn't detect it. However, for both Lin Yi and the King of Junk, Lin Yi's senses were very sharp, while the King of Junk was a professional blacksmith. Sensing changes was one of his basic skills. At this moment, the lump of iron began to melt like 1,000-year-old ice, which couldn't escape their eyes at all. "It's done!" Lin Yi and the King of Junk high-fived each other in celebration. As long as the ice was broken, the following changes would happen naturally. In the past 2 months, the King of Junk didn't just simply look at the lump of iron. He took advantage of this time to thoroughly study the forging process and calculated every possible change. He had prepared more than 100 emergency plans for this. If he still failed, it would be God's will. As expected, the King of Junk seemed to be at ease in the forging process. Every time there was an unexpected sign, it was immediately suppressed by him and couldn't cause any trouble. As they waited anxiously, several days passed in the blink of an eye. Lin Yi's originally calm mood gradually became uneasy because the final time had come. Once it was successful, with all the top-level materials Lin Yi had thrown in, and the blood and sweat the King of Junk had poured into it, the weapon he would be able to make would be one of a kind. Even if it wasn't the first in history, Lin Yi's strength would skyrocket once more. However, in the midst of such anticipation and uneasiness, the King of Junk's expression suddenly changed, and so did Lin Yi's expression. Right at the final step, it was stuck. "What's wrong? Is there something missing?" Lin Yi couldn't help but ask. He was just about to come out of the furnace, but it was suddenly stuck. This kind of feeling was really annoying. It's not that bad." The King of Junk turned around and looked at Lin Yi with a bitter smile. He said helplessly, "It's very important to control the temperature and environment when a legendary weapon is produced. Only then can it be produced smoothly, but I can't do it." "Huh? Can't do it?" Lin Yi couldn't help but grin, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. At this critical moment, she actually said that she couldn't do it. What was going on? "Brother Lin, if we fail again this time, the problem will all be on me," the tattered king said in a low voice. Then he scratched his head in disbelief. "But it's only at the last minute. There have never been any problems before. Why is it not working today? Could it be that my forging skills are really that bad? It's fine. There won't be any more problems at this point anyway. If the first time doesn't work, then we'll try again. If the second time doesn't work, then we'll try a third time. Let's try more." Lin Yi comforted him. The tattered king nodded and continued with various attempts. However, what made him want to cry was that no matter what he did, it just wouldn't work. There would always be a slight error. Although it was only a little, it seemed to be an insurmountable gap. This time, even Lin Yi didn't know how to comfort him. He could only stare at the tattered king and stare at each other. The tattered king, who had always been confident, even began to doubt if his forging skills were really bad. Little did he know that if the weapon forging masters were to find out about this, they would probably cry. 10,000-year tree crystals, ancient pure lands, and other rare treasures of heaven and earth. And you two actually put them all together. Even genius grandmasters like them would find it difficult to control them. And you two newbies actually dared to open a furnace and do it? You guys really don't know what you're talking about. It would be a miracle if you could even form it. In fact, it was already a miracle that you could reach the last step. However, the tattered king and Lin Yi didn't know that. They thought it was really their own problem. So they frowned and didn't know what to do. The last step of forming depended on the perfect control of the fire. There was no shortcut. Unless they could find a weapon forging master to help them, it was impossible. Even an ordinary weapon forging master couldn't do it. However, there were very few weapon forging masters in the whole North Island. Except for the tattered king, it was hard to find a weapon forging master. Moreover, in terms of forging skills, they were not as good as the Tattered King. They couldn't be called weapon forging masters at all. What should they do? Helplessly, Lin Yi could only let the Tattered King stay in the cave and continue to try, while he went back to the welcome pavilion. After all, it was not a good idea to stay there. Even if he stayed there, he couldn't help the Tattered King. But he couldn't get rid of it. Even when he came out alone, he couldn't help but frown. "Junior brother, what's wrong with you? You don't have fun with us?" Seeing this, Shanghai Laner couldn't help but pout. These days, she dragged Huang Xiaotao to play with Lin Yi when she had nothing to do. She claimed that she wanted to help them cultivate their relationship and be a competent matchmaker. Huang Xiaotao also looked at Lin Yi carefully. She was worried. She thought it was because she and Shanghai Laner came too often that Lin Yi was annoyed. "No, don't get me wrong. It has nothing to do with you two," Lin Yi hurriedly explained. "Actually, it's my own problem. I've been crafting with a friend recently, and we've used a lot of treasures and energy. I've tried everything I could to find the life-growing mushroom just for this crafting. But now that I'm about to succeed, I'm stuck at the last step. I can't form it. I really don't know what to do. Oh, I see. It's a pity that my grandfather doesn't know anything about forging. Otherwise, I could ask him to help." Shanghai Laner shook her head regretfully. "I still need to gather the materials for my weapon and send it to a blacksmith. But those blacksmiths' levels aren't very high. I reckon they won't be of much use." Huang Xiaotao couldn't help with this kind of thing. The only thing she could do was to comfort Lin Yi and ask him not to be anxious. "There's no other way. We can only take it one step at a time. Let my friend continue to explore. I hope it won't get worse before we find a solution." Lin Yi could only smile bitterly. After chatting for a while, the few of them dispersed. Shanghai Laner happened to receive a letter from Ning Xuefei. She immediately wrote down everything that had happened to Lin Yi during this period of time in detail. She even included Lin Yi's current worries in the letter. To be continued. Chapter 4180. Finally receiving a reply from Shangwan Laner, Ning Xuefei naturally couldn't wait to share it with Han Jingjing. Looking at Lin Yi's recent situation, especially the strong performance of killing Su Zhaohe in one move, the two women sincerely felt happy for Lin Yi. Brother Lin Yi is really powerful. He is already at the early stage of Gold Core. We also have to work hard, otherwise we can't keep up with Brother Lin Yi's footsteps, Han Jingjing said with a look of admiration and determination. Well, it's not good to fall behind too much. Ning Xuefei nodded in agreement and said, "Jingjing, you haven't used your foundation establishment pill yet. Take it quickly to upgrade." "Yes, that's what I was thinking. We've hit a bottleneck with our automated crafting machine. I'm sure we'll be able to solve it once we get stronger. If we succeed, we'll be able to solve Big Bro Lin's problems," Han Jingjing said seriously. Yes, our automatic casting mechanism can perfectly solve this kind of fire control problem. It just happens to be of help to him. We have to work hard." Ning Xuefei cheered them on. "Well, let's work hard together." Han Jingjing said nothing and immediately took the best foundation establishment pill and began to meditate to break through. Although she did not pursue strength in order to help Lin Yi, she was willing to try anything. Ordinary days always passed in a flash. Recently, Lin Yi's life could be said to be uneventful. During this time, those forces against Lin Yi, his group of enemies, all coincidentally stopped. And Lin Yi was also happy to be idle. Although he still could not solve the problem of the casting not being able to take shape, he did not let this matter affect his normal cultivation. He was getting closer and closer to the peak of the early stage of Gold Core. As the days passed, the one-year period of welcoming Pavilion's newcomers was approaching. But a big event happened in the 3 pavilions of the North Island. Su Lingchong, the young master of Soaring Sky Pavilion, who disappeared a few months ago, actually came back. As soon as the news came out, everyone in the 3 pavilions was shocked. Many people were surprised and suspicious. Su Lingchong's disappearance was confirmed by the law enforcement hall. He absconded in fear of being punished for the attempted rape of Shanghai Laner. He had been wanted for a long time in the whole North Island, but there had been no news of him. It was not until some time ago that the law enforcement hall suddenly withdrew the wanted order. Everyone thought that it was because they could not find the person, so they could only leave it be. Behind them, Su Yuanzheng, the third elder of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, was also contributing. Cancel the wanted order to avoid being laughed at by others. Little did he know that even Su Yuanjing himself was baffled by this matter. He thought that it was Shanghai Tianhua who had come forward to say hello. After all, this matter was related to Shanghai Laner, and it was not convenient for others to come forward to say anything. Moreover, apart from Shanghai Tianhua, Ramjia never gave face to anyone else in the 3 pavilions. What no one expected was that as soon as the arrest warrant was lifted, young Master Su, who had disappeared for several months, would suddenly appear again. It couldn't be someone with ulterior motives. Was it a smoke bomb deliberately released? This rumor was finally confirmed after Su Lingchong appeared. This young Master Su, who was once popular, sure enough, he was back. What was even more shocking was that Su Lingchong, who appeared again, was completely different from the previous image of a young master. Not only did his long hair flutter, but there was also a bit of inexplicable evil in his speech and behavior, which made people unconsciously feel strange. And the most shocking thing was that Su Lingchong, who was only at the Pika Foundation establishment before, now, only a few months later, he actually had the powerful strength of the middle stage of Gold Core. The shock brought by this news was even no less than the discovery that Lin Yi was an expert at the early stage of Gold Core. In just a few months, he not only succeeded in forming his core, but also rose 3 levels in a row. This was simply a fantasy. Countless people had the same question in their hearts. How on earth did he do it? It was true that there were strange talents every year, but there were especially many this year. If Su Lingchong's sudden return brought shock to the 3 pavilions, then the happiest person was his grandfather, Su Yuanzheng. As the big boss of the Elders' Union, Su Yuanzheng could be said to be mentally and physically exhausted during this period of time. For so many years, Su Lingchong, this grandson of his, had always been his sole heir. Apart from Su Lingchong, there was no other young person in the Su family who could take his place. Unlike ordinary families, the ancestors of the Su family were all local big families on the North Island. They were deeply rooted and powerful. The heir not only needed bloodline, but also strong strength. Otherwise, he would not be able to control the situation, let alone be the head of the family. Looking at all the young people of the Su family, there was only one person who met this condition, Su Lingchong. Therefore, after Su Lingchong's sudden disappearance, this big boss Su Yuanzheng was really anxious. The more powerful the family, the more importance it attached to the inheritance. Once something happened to the heir, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even with Su Yuanzheng, this big boss, suppressing from above, he still could not stop the turbulent undercurrent. During this period of time, the Su family, including many of the collateral forces attached to the Su family, had obviously begun to be restless. But now, with the sudden return of Su Lingchong, especially with the amazing strength of the middle stage Gold Core realm, all these problems were solved. How could he improve his strength to such an amazing level in just a few months? This was a question that Su Yuanzheng would certainly ask, and the answer Su Lingchong gave was that he had received guidance from a mysterious expert, so he could have such progress. Although Su Yuanzheng still had doubts in his heart, of course, the stronger his grandson was, the better. Since Su Lingchong himself was unwilling to say more, he would not get to the bottom of it, but he was sincerely happy. However, if Su Yuanjing knew that Su Lingchong had castrated himself, he did not know if the third elder of Rising Sky Pavilion would still be able to laugh. Other than Su Yuanzheng, The one who was the happiest about Su Lingchong's return was Kong Mingming, who used to be his follower. This was his biggest support before, and now he had returned with the domineering strength of the middle stage gold core realm. Moreover, because the arrest warrant was not settled, Shanghai Tianhua and Ram Jie did not say anything. The suspicion on Su Lingchong's head had disappeared. Therefore, as soon as he returned, he once again occupied the position of the big brother in charge of Rising Sky Pavilion. This was definitely a thick thigh. Even the previously popular Lin Yi could not be compared to the current Su Lingchong. So how could he not embrace him? When Kong Xiaoming heard the news, he immediately went to seek shelter. Although he was already an outer member of the guild center, it wasn't a bad thing to have someone to rely on. Zhong Pingliang, on the other hand, wanted to find out more about Su Lingchong, so he went with him. To be continued. Chapter 40, 181. Seeing that Su Lingchong's temperament had changed greatly, the two of them were shocked and looked at each other. Su Lingchong did not look surprised, but just glanced at the two of them lightly. "You're here? Where's the one called Si Haishao?" Su Lingchong asked directly. Si Haishao. Kong Mingming could not help but wonder. "Young Master Su, you also know Shopkeeper Si? But he wasn't with us before, right?" "He wasn't before, but he is now." "Go and call him over," Su Lingchong instructed lightly. Kong Mingming did not dare to neglect and immediately went out to invite Si Haishao from the Central Chamber of Commerce. Along the way, Si Haishao could not help but be puzzled and nervous. Su Lingchong suddenly called him over. What did this mean? Could it be that the secret alliance with Kong Mingming and the others, and the matter of pulling them into the periphery of the Central Chamber of Commerce, had been discovered by Su Lingchong? He was dissatisfied with being poached by him, so he wanted to make an example out of him. Muttering in his heart, Si Haishao finally decided to come and take a look. Although Su Lingchong had made a strong comeback, and most people had to take a detour, Si Haishao was not someone to be trifled with. In terms of strength, he was stronger than a middle-stage gold core. In terms of status, he was also the spokesperson of the North Island of the Central Chamber of Commerce. He was not afraid of Su Lingchong in any aspect. In the future, whether Su Lingchong was an enemy or a friend, and how he should face this young master of Soaring Sky Pavilion, he had to personally come and confirm. Unexpectedly, when he came to Soaring Sky Pavilion with such thoughts, Su Lingchong's reaction was far beyond Si Haishao's expectations. "You are Si Haishao? Very good. Follow me in the future." Su Lingchong glanced at him and nodded lightly. "What?" Si Haishao was momentarily stunned, and his expression immediately turned ugly. This young master, Su, must be King sick in the head. I'm the manager of the Central Chamber of Commerce, and even someone like Southern Polar Light calls me an old friend. Why would I fight with you for no reason? For a moment, the atmosphere suddenly became tense. Kong Mingming and the others looked at each other, not daring to make a sound. "Young Master Su, it's true that you're the big senior brother in charge of the Soaring Pavilion, but I'm the manager of the North Island branch of the Central Chamber of Commerce. We belong to different branches, and we're not on the same path at all. Don't you think your words are too rude?" Si Haishao said in a low voice. Is that so?" Su Lingchong smiled indifferently and suddenly threw out a photo. It was a photo of him and the mysterious man in black, and a handwritten letter was thrown out together with it, which clearly stated that Su Lingchong was appointed as the deputy manager of the North Island Center, and was fully responsible for the affairs of the North Island Center. The deputy manager of the North Island Center? How could this be? Upon seeing this, Si Haishao was shocked. This was much more powerful than the North Island Intelligence group that he was secretly in charge of. However, Su Lingchong's strength was obviously not as high as his. I have a backer in the center. I am the direct disciple of Master Pao. That is an existence that even the mysterious man in black has to revere. Do you understand now? Su Lingchong saw through the other party's doubts. He said proudly, "Ah, Master Pao." Si Haishao was shocked and confused, but he could not refute. He could only lower his head and carefully read the appointment letter in his hand. There was a unique symbol of the center on it. This could not be faked at all. Moreover, he was in charge of intelligence, so it was impossible to get away with it in front of his eyes. In fact, when he saw the photo for the first time, he already believed Su Lingchong. Although the mysterious man in black still did not show his face, his figure and temperament could not be disguised by others. Moreover, Su Lingchong suddenly disappeared and returned. Within a few months, he suddenly became an expert at the middle stage of the gold core realm. This matter was full of strangeness. According to common sense, it could not be explained at all. However, if he joined the center, then it could be understood. "Yes, master." Si Haishao had no choice but to lower his head and say to Su Lingchong helplessly. At the same time, he glanced at Kong Mingming. It seemed that this guy was going to be rich in the future. He had found a powerful backer. That's great. I didn't expect Master Su to be one of the top figures in our center. Congratulations, Master Su. Kong Mingming saw the situation and quickly flattered him. Zhong Pingliang followed along, but he couldn't help but mutter in his heart. The young master of the soaring pavilion had become one of the top figures in the center. Su Lingchong was like a hen turning into a duck in the blink of an eye. Moreover, why did the master Pao that he mentioned sound a little weird? At this time, Su Lingchong turned his head. His gaze went past Si Haishao and landed on Morongzhen, who came with him today. This shocked Morongzhen. "Greetings, Master Su. I offended Miss Shangguan last time. I apologize to Master Su here. I hope that Master Su will forgive me and let me go," Morongzhen quickly said carefully. "Shangguan Laner?" Su Lingchong waved his hand indifferently and said faintly, "It's just a woman. It doesn't matter. Since you've joined the center, you're one of us. Let's forget about what happened in the past." If it was before his disappearance, he wouldn't have caused trouble for Morongzhen in order to get on Shangguan Laner's good side. But now that he had castrated himself, Shangguan Laner naturally didn't matter anymore. "Thank you, Master Su." Morongzhen was overjoyed. She thought that it would be a tragedy for her to run into Su Lingchong's gun. One had to know that other than Shangguan Laner, he was also one of her targets for revenge. She didn't expect Su Lingchong to be so magnanimous and just let it go. In the past, she was angry with him because of hatred. But now, Master Su was not only powerful and had a noble status, but he also had an indescribable temperament of a powerhouse. Although he was a little feminine, he was still the best among men. Morongzhen could not help but feel a ripple in her heart. This young master, Su, was so generous to her. Could it be that he had taken a fancy to her beauty? If she could hook up with him, then her future would be much better than following an old pervert like Si Haishao. "Master Su, if you don't mind, would you like me to massage your shoulders? I've practiced it before. I'm sure you'll be satisfied." Morongzhen's eyes were like silk and her body was enchanting. She twisted her waist and walked toward Su Lingchong. "No need. You don't have to waste your time. I'm not interested in you." Su Lingchong saw through her mind and rejected her coldly. "Yes." Morongzhen's face turned red as she stopped walking. Kong Xiaoming and the others were all sneering at her, especially Kong Si Haishao, who was glaring at her. "This shameless bitch. Everyone, don't miss this. Go and play after reading the book or log in from Weixin Yurin 22. To be continued. Chapter 4182. By the way, how is that Meng Tong now? Su Lingchong suddenly asked. Apart from Meng Jueguang, who had died long ago, among the forces he cultivated in the Welcome Pavilion, only Meng Tong was not present. 3W. He has changed a lot during this time. His temperament has changed a lot. It's like he's a completely different person. He usually secludes himself in the cave and rarely comes out. Kong Ming Ming answered. Well, what about Lin Yi? When I just came back, I heard that you guys were defeated again and again. Su Ling Chong changed the topic. He had heard about Lin Yi's strong return and instantly killing Su Zhaohe. He asked this to confirm it. Ugh, yes. Everyone looked at each other and nodded submissively. They really didn't know what to do with Lin Yi right now. Humph, you bunch of useless trash. Su Ling Chong scolded coldly, and then said with a look of disdain, Forget it. Let's wait for me to do it myself. Wahahaha. With Master Pao's teachings, no matter how that Lin Yi jumps around, he's just a grasshopper after autumn. He's not far from death. Young Master Su is mighty. Kong Ming Ming quickly took the lead to flatter him. Young Master Su, may I ask who that Master Pao is? Si Haishao asked carefully. He was the highest level among these people, and he specialized in intelligence. However, even he had never heard of such a powerful person like Master Pao in the center. Is this something that a servant like you can ask? Su Lingchong glanced at him with dissatisfaction, but when he saw everyone's curiosity, he could not help but praise. In short, Master Pao is very powerful. He's one of the top figures in our center. I have already cultivated Master Pao's unique divine skill, the Chrysanthemum Treasure Book. Ah, Chrysanthemum Treasure Book? Everyone's expression suddenly changed. It was rumored that this was a peerless ancient divine skill. Even the Heaven Stage Island had been extinct for many years. It was said that there was only one sect in the secular world. Until now, there was still an inheritance. Su Lingchong had actually cultivated such a peerless divine skill. But thinking about it carefully, the Central Chamber of Commerce could trade with the secular world. So it wasn't impossible for them to obtain such an unparalleled divine art from the secular world. Pinliang's face was filled with shock as well, but his focus was completely different from the others. Master Pao, Chrysanthemum Treasure Book? Holy shit, this great Pao wouldn't be Zhang Naipeo, would it? Fuck, this kid better not betray us. I was pretending to join the center, but this Zhang Naipeo kid, he seemed to be doing quite well in the center. No, this is important information. I have to think of a way to inform Boss Lin Yi. Master Su, congratulations on your amazing martial arts. From now on, Master Su will definitely be the best among the younger generation of the 3 pavilions. Kong Ming Ming quickly flattered, but he was just as surprised as Pinliang was. After all, he knew Zhang Naipeo, Master Pao, and the chrysanthemum art were 2 distinct labels, and any normal person wouldn't be able to help but think about it. Of course, doubts were just doubts. Before actually meeting this Master Pao, everything was just a guess, so he could only temporarily suppress it in his heart. Otherwise, he would really have to say it out in front of everyone. If he guessed correctly, it would be fine. But if he guessed incorrectly, not only would he make a fool out of himself, but he would also anger Master Pao. That wouldn't be worth it. Humph. Dominating the 3 pavilions is only the first step, the path I'm going to take in the future. There's still a long way to go. Su Lingchong smiled proudly. After joining the center, his vision was completely different from before. Originally, young Master Su had wholeheartedly wanted to take over Su Yuanjing's position and become Shangguan Tianhua's son-in-law, allowing the Su family to rise to the next level. But now, this was already child's play to Su Lingchong. His ambition was far greater than this. With the support of the center, he had power and influence. As long as he advanced step by step, he wouldn't have to worry about not being able to achieve great things. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, everyone, including Si Haishao, fought to be the first to flatter Su Lingchong. They flattered him until he was overjoyed, and only then did they disperse. Right? Zhao Ming, Pinliang, accompany me to Welcome Pavilion. I want to see that brat Meng Tong. Su Lingchong stopped the 2 of them. He paused for a while and suddenly sneered. I can also go and take a look at Lin Yi. Isn't this guy in the limelight now? I want to see how much he has grown. When he spoke of Lin Yi, Su Lingchong's originally feminine bearing suddenly became even more sinister, and he was like a venomous snake spitting out its scarlet red tongue, causing the hairs of everyone present to unconsciously stand on end. Although joining the center was a blessing in disguise for Su Lingchong, he didn't forget that day when he was wiped off by little curly bear Ka. Almost every time he closed his eyes, he would think of that day, and it was like a nightmare that he couldn't get rid of. And the main culprit that caused all this was Lin Yi, who meddled in other people's business. After that, he was accidentally brought into the center by the mysterious man in black. Speaking of which, he still had to thank Lin Yi, but the way to thank him was naturally to find an opportunity to make him pay with his blood. Yes. Kong Mingming and Zhong Pinliang looked at each other and answered excitedly. Kong Xiaoming led the way in high spirits. He'd been suppressed by Lin Yi for so long, and he'd been given the cold shoulder by the head of the welcoming pavilion, Hu Yunfeng. He was a new deacon who'd lost his backer, and he wasn't what he used to be. Many newcomers didn't take him seriously anymore. But now, with Su Lingchong's strong return, he could finally use Su Lingchong's power to intimidate him again, and he could act cool in the welcome pavilion again. Zhong Pinliang, on the other hand, was pretending to be excited. The only thing on his mind right now was to find an opportunity to leak the information to boss Lin Yi. Zhang Naipeo's matter was very important. The three of them immediately went to the welcome pavilion. Hu Yunfeng, who was one of House Su's people, received the news and quickly came out to welcome them. However, when the group arrived at the Blue Cloud Pavilion's newcomers' cave, they didn't see Lin Yi. According to the reports from the other newcomers in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, Lin Yi had just been called away by Shanghai Lena not long ago. He left with Shangguan Laner. Su Lingchong's face changed when he heard that, but quickly returned to normal. He didn't have any love for Shangguan Laner anymore, just like how he treated Lin Yi. All he had left was anger and bone-deep hatred. Chapter 40, 183. Forget it. If that's the case, then I'll go check on Meng Tong. Either of you go and keep an eye on him. When you find Lin Yi, or when he comes back, report to me. Su Lingchong paused and said coldly, also, you two go take a good look at him and see if he and Laner are together or not. This together wasn't referring to Lin Yi and Laner fooling around together, but to see if the two were in cahoots. This would affect how he would deal with Lin Yi. After all, if they really were together, he would have to worry about Shanghai Tianhua. That Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang looked at each other, obviously unwilling. Today they came back with Master Su, and this was a chance to show off. Who wouldn't want to show off by Su Lingchong's side? If they were sent to keep an eye on him, then they wouldn't be able to show off anymore. Especially Kong Mingming. He was waiting for this chance to regroup and show off his power as a new deacon. How could he be sent out like this? Being stared at by Su Lingchong like this, Kong Mingming was anxious. He quickly looked at Zhong Pinliang and pretended to cough. Master Su, then why don't I go? Pinliang said, understanding what Lin Yi was implying. The reluctance on his face was an act of course. He was waiting for this chance to send a message to Lin Yi's boss, but he couldn't appear too enthusiastic. Okay, you go. Su Lingchong nodded indifferently. Kong Mingming was secretly happy and gave Zhong Pinliang a thumbs up. He was very satisfied with Zhong Pingliang's initiative, although his position was slightly threatened when Su Lingchong went missing. Now that Master Su was back, his position naturally rose again. In terms of relationship with Su Lingchong, he was much closer than Zhong Pingliang. But it was rare for Zhong Pingliang to be so tactful. It seemed like he could help him in the future. He could be the scapegoat at the crucial moment. Pinliang turned around and left, chuckling at the same time. Kong Mingming was still counting the money after being sold. If it weren't for him, he wouldn't have gotten the chance to tip off boss Lin Yi. Although Lin Yi was not in the cave residence, he knew Lin Yi very well. Since he was called out by Shanghai Laner, he most likely went to the grove, which was the place they often played. He sent Pinliang out to keep a lookout. Kong Mingming, on the other hand, continued to follow Su Lingchong. They arrived at the entrance of Meng Tong's cave residence and touched the cave residence's restriction. Young Master Su, you're back? Meng Tong opened the door of the cave abode and saw a group of people waiting in front of him, especially Su Lingchong, who was the leader. He was immediately shocked. During this period of time, he had been cultivating in seclusion and rarely came out. Everyone outside knew about this rumor. Everyone knew that he had never heard of it. He didn't care about the other Kong Mingming's group, but when he suddenly saw his long-lost backer, it would be strange if he wasn't surprised. Su Lingchong looked at Meng Tong, who seemed to be a different person. His eyes couldn't help but light up, and he was a little surprised. The previous Meng Tong was a complete idiot cannon fodder, but the current Meng Tong, not only was his strength different from before, but more importantly, his entire image and temperament had become unfathomable. A head of white hair fluttering in the wind. He had a different kind of charm. Su Lingchong's heart moved slightly, and he waved his hand to the people behind him, ordering, "Zhao Ming, you guard outside. I'll go in and have a good chat with Meng Tong." After saying that, Su Lingchong took the initiative to pull Meng Tong into the cave abode, and the two of them walked into the cave abode, closing the door and restriction. No one knew what they were going to do in there, leaving only Kong Mingming, Hu Yinfeng, and the rest looking at each other at the door. At this moment, in the small forest, Lin Yi was sitting together and chatting with Shangguan Laner, while Huang Xiaotao was at the side, playing with the little curly bear. Hee, Little White seems to like playing with Xiaotao recently. Lin Yi couldn't help but raise his eyebrows in surprise. Although this little guy wasn't very shy, other than Shangguan Laner and himself, it rarely took the initiative to get close to others. He didn't expect it to hit it off so well with Huang Xiaotao. It's trying so hard to please senior sister Xiaotao, but it actually has an ulterior motive. Shangguan Laner giggled. "Why do you say that?" Lin Yi asked curiously. Little White played with senior sister Xiaotao's spirit bird for an afternoon last time, and in the end he fell in love with the feeling of flying on the bird. He couldn't stop at all, and I had to coax him for a long time before he went to sleep. Shangguan Laner pouted. "Oh, Little White is preparing to become a flying knight, and his ambition is great." Lin Yi laughed. "It's not a bad thing. At least it's much better than dragging the big scissors around to scare people every day." Since the birthday banquet, when it carelessly killed Su Lingchong, the little curly bear inexplicably fell in love with the big scissors, and it simply couldn't put it down even when it was eating or sleeping. It really gave everyone a headache for a while, but now the little guy's interest had finally shifted. "Hee, that's true." Shangguan Laner stuck out her tongue, and suddenly her expression changed. "Speaking of this, little junior brother, have you heard that Su Lingchong is back?" "Yes, I've already heard about this. They said that this young master, Su, has changed a lot. He's now a master in the middle phase of the Golden Elixir realm. He's really awesome." Lin Yi nodded as usual. "I don't know what Ram Jia is thinking. He actually canceled his wanted order, and after offending me, he actually let him come back to show off. It's really infuriating." Shangguan Laner said angrily, "Canceling the wanted order. This is Ram Jia's own decision? Isn't it Su Yuanjing or other higher-ups who are pressuring him?" Lin Yi's heart moved. The rumors in the streets were all Su Yuanjing's work. But if it was Ram Jia's initiative, then the meaning revealed in this was a bit thought-provoking. I don't know about this, but the Silent Gourd is the law enforcement hall master. If he didn't agree, no matter what other people do, there is definitely no way to cancel the wanted order. This is certain. Although Shangguan Laner never cared about these things, but she was influenced by what she saw and heard, she was also clear about the knack of this. Is it really Ram Jia's initiative to nod? Lin Yi thoughtfully pinched his chin. He had also dealt with Ram Jia before. According to his understanding, this person was extremely arrogant and confident if he was not willing. Even God would not be able to make him bow down. Who knows, the most important problem now is that Su Lingchong, that guy, came back aggressively this time. He definitely has bad intentions towards you. Little junior brother. Shangguan Laner said with a worried face. Chapter 40, 184. Although Su Lingchong's sudden return had indeed surprised him, but now things were different. With his current strength, this young master, Su, could no longer pose a fatal threat to him. But Su Zhaohe is only at the early stage of Gold Core, and Su Lingchong is a middle stage Gold Core master? Shanghai Laner couldn't help but remind him. Don't worry, it's fine. Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although he was only at the early stage of Gold Core, he was the strongest Gold Core master who had a perfect breakthrough. Even if he was facing a middle-stage Gold Core master, it was not a problem. Even if he couldn't kill him in one move, suppressing the opponent was not a problem. He had this confidence. Then, little junior brother, you have to be careful. I have seen Su Lingchong from afar before, and I feel that this guy is indeed different from before. From afar, he has an indescribable evil aura, and I always feel that he is neither yin nor yang. Moreover, he has been back for so many days, but he hasn't come to harass me. Shanghai Laner blinked her big eyes and said, if it was the previous Su Lingchong, no matter what, he would come to pester her every 2 to 3 days. Now that he was ignoring her like this, it was as if the sun rose from the west. You can't blame Su Lingchong for this matter. The source is Little White. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. Su Lingchong had been killed. If he could be masculine, then he would really see a ghost. As the two were talking, Zhong Pingliang rushed in from the forest path far away, winking at Lin Yi from afar. Lin Yi saw it and knew that something had happened. He told Shanghai Laner and quickly walked over. Boss, Lin Yi, this is bad. Zhong Pingliang said in shock. What's wrong? Lin Yi looked at him in surprise. Su Lingchong is back. He has become a middle-stage Gold Core master. He is unprecedentedly strong, and his entire temperament has changed. Zhong Pingliang reported. Yes, I already know this. Little senior sister also told me just now. Lin Yi nodded, still calm as usual. No, it's like this. I just heard it from his own mouth. He's now the vice manager of the North Island, and he's practicing the chrysanthemum art. The one who taught him this art is a high-ranking member of the North Island, Master Pao. Pin Liang told Lin Yi everything he'd heard and seen. What, chrysanthemum treasure book? Master Pao? After listening, Lin Yi's expression became a little strange. Seeing Lin Yi's expression, Pin Liang knew that he was thinking the same thing. Boss Lin Yi, this Master Pao you're talking about isn't that Pao kid, is it? Well, it's hard to say. Lin Yi frowned. You know Naipeo the best. Are you sure it's him? I guess so. Pin Liang nodded heavily and gritted his teeth. But this kid better not betray us. Fuck, if he dares to, I'll kill him myself. Yes, we can't verify this for now. Let's wait and see. Just keep an eye on Su Lingchong, Lin Yi thought about it. Suddenly hearing this news, he felt that things seemed to have become a little complicated. This mysterious and unpredictable center, what kind of god was it? Why did the Middle Island and the North Island have them, and they were all so powerful? Back in the common world, Lin Yi had heard of the center's name. Jiang Wen seemed to be with them. Elder Xianqin also worked with the center, but there were only a few biohumans at that time. They didn't pay too much attention to it. How did they come to Sky Island now? How did the center become so powerful? Were the center of the common world and the center of Sky Island the same people? Or was it just a coincidence of names, and they had nothing to do with each other? If the two centers were the same, then they would be able to extend their tentacles into the secular world and Heaven Stage Island at the same time. Then this mysterious central force would truly be a bit shocking. All right, I'll listen to you, boss. Right, Su Lingchong is at the Welcome Pavilion now. He wanted to see you. but you weren't there, so he sent me out to keep watch. What do you plan to do, boss? Do you want to go back and meet him, or just ignore him? I'll just say that I didn't find you, Pinliang said. No need, I'll go back and meet him. Lin Yi smiled faintly. To be honest, I'm a little curious about what this Master Su has become. After saying that, Lin Yi turned to say goodbye to Shangguan Lanner and Huang Xiaodao, and immediately followed Zhong Pingliang back to the welcoming pavilion. The door to the welcome pavilion opened again, and Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong walked out with smiles on their faces, one on the left and the other on the right, walking side by side. This is my partner from now on. You guys have to call him Meng Bro. Su Lingqiong instructed Kong Mingming and the others. Ah! Kong Mingming was stunned, and Pinliang came back at that moment. He couldn't help but grin when he saw the scene. No matter how he looked at the relationship between these two, something didn't seem right. It was a little weird, wasn't it? Speaking of which, when did Master Su become so courteous? Although Meng Tong had become more unfathomable than before, he couldn't be compared to Si Haishao in terms of strength or status. Master Su didn't even care about Si Haishao before, so why was he so nice to Meng Tong? And he even called him Meng Bro? Meng Tong was just a small cannon fodder in the past. When did his status become so high that he could step on their heads? How is it? Where's Lin Yi? Su Lingqiong stood side by side with Meng Tong, ignoring everyone's weird expressions as he turned to Pinliang and asked, I saw him walking this way just now. He should be back. Pinliang nodded. Okay, let's go take a look. Su Lingqiong's lips curled into a cold smile as he immediately led everyone towards Lin Yi's cave. At the entrance of the cave, Su Lingqiong and the others just happened to meet Lin Yi, who came back specially. Looking at Lin Yi, who seemed to have been reborn, Su Lingqiong's cold and vicious eyes couldn't help but focus slightly. Lin Yi looked him up and down, also a little surprised. With a body full of evil aura, Su Lingqiong's current temperament was neither yin nor yang, but it was especially compatible with Meng Tong, who was standing beside him with the same temperament. Both sides met, and before they spoke, Su Lingqiong's cold aura suddenly became ferocious and violent. The powerful aura of a middle-stage golden core master poured out without holding back, like a sudden eruption of a mountain torrent, pressing down on Lin Yi's head. Lin Yi's side also didn't want to be outdone. His aura also increased greatly. Although he was only at the early stage of Golden Core, 2 levels lower than Su Lingqiong, but facing Su Lingqiong's overbearing pressure, he didn't move and didn't seem to be at a disadvantage. Tonight, there will be a gift-snatching event. Everyone go and play. School Bell's personal expert can also be entered through public account Weixin 22. To be continued. Chapter 4185. As for the other newcomers present, with their mere foundation establishment stage strength, standing here was simply like a small boat in a monstrous wave, swaying unsteadily, with the possibility of capsizing at any time. This was still Su Lingqiong and Lin Yi, both focusing their attention on each other. Otherwise, if they were to switch targets, these ordinary newcomers would probably be directly crushed by the imposing manner. People only need to look at you once, and you will fall to the ground by yourself. They were all newcomers, but this was the difference between them and Lin Yi. Both sides confronted each other, and for a moment, the entire welcoming pavilion seemed to have the momentum of a coming storm. Perhaps the weather was just a coincidence, but at this moment, everyone's heart already felt a heavy pressure, especially to the surrounding ordinary newcomers. It was like the déjà vu of mortals suffering in a battle between immortals. However, although the imposing manner of both sides confronted each other tensely, regardless of whether it was Su Lingqiong or Lin Yi, neither of them had the intention to make a move. Lin Yi needn't be mentioned, and although Su Lingqiong wanted to kill Lin Yi, he couldn't attack Lin Yi without a reason, or else he would be arrested by the law enforcement hall and punished in public. Lin, this young master heard that you seemed to be very arrogant recently. Su Lingchong suddenly curled his lips and smiled coldly. Hee hee, Senior Su, you flatter me. I'm just living my life. But I can't stand some people who don't have eyes. They always send themselves to be abused, so I can only reluctantly do it. Lin Yi replied indifferently. Very good. Since you are already a golden core initial stage expert, it is rare for a newcomer to have such a performance. It is worthy of praise. Su Lingchong didn't seem to hear the mockery in Lin Yi's words, and instead suggested, this young master can make the decision to make an exception and recruit you as an official disciple of the Soaring Sky Pavilion. Are you willing? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding people immediately went into an uproar. The Soaring Sky Pavilion was the most powerful among the 3 pavilions. This was without a doubt, and regardless of resources or status, it was a lot higher than the other 2 pavilions. Under normal circumstances, any Profound Secrets Pavilion or Clear Cloud Pavilion disciple who had the chance to join the Soaring Sky Pavilion was a dream come true. Su Lingchong, as the eldest senior brother in charge of the Soaring Sky Pavilion and the grandson of the 3rd elder of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, Su Yuanzhang, did indeed have such authority in his hands. As long as there was a suitable reason, it was not too difficult for him to get someone to join the Soaring Sky Pavilion. I'm not willing. Lin Yi's answer was concise and clear, causing the surrounding people to be taken aback. Huh. Su Lingchong was immediately stunned. The reason why he suddenly made the suggestion was because actually his ultimate goal was to teach Lin Yi a lesson. After all, with his current identity, he was one of the representatives of Soaring Sky Pavilion. It was simply inconvenient for him to make a move against Lin Yi. Moreover, if he wanted to challenge Lin Yi like Su Zhaohe before, he would not have an official reason to do so. After all, he could not make the matter of his self-castration public. However, if he could get Lin Yi into the Soaring Sky Pavilion, then as the eldest senior brother in charge of the Soaring Sky Pavilion, it would be a piece of cake for him. At that time, it would be a piece of cake for him to pinch and flatten, and Lin Yi wouldn't be able to escape from his palms. However, he did not expect that. Lin Yi rejected it without hesitation. Could it be that this guy had seen through his intentions? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If you reject it now, this road will be blocked by you. Don't even think about entering the Soaring Sky Pavilion in the future. Have you thought it through? Su Lingchong was still unwilling to give up. I'll just stay here. It's pretty good. Senior brother Su, you don't have to worry about me. Lin Yi was stubborn. He looked Su Lingchong up and down and then said with a playful expression, Senior brother Su, it's great to see that you're fine. However, Lin Yi's laughter was baffling to the bystanders, but Su Lingchong was well aware of it. Her, this kid was laughing at him for losing his family jewels. What are you laughing at? Su Lingchong was instantly pissed off by his laughter. He said furiously, if you laugh again, believe it or not, this young master will kill you right now. You control the heavens and the earth, and you still care whether I laugh or not. The authority of the Soaring Sky Pavilion's eldest senior brother in charge isn't so exaggerated, right? Lin Yi looked at him mischievously. Lin Yi, you have guts. You better be careful. Don't let this young master get hold of you. Su Lingchong was so angry that he gnashed his teeth. However, he could not make a move against Lin Yi. He could only turn around and leave with a gloomy face. He really did not expect that Lin Yi, this fellow, was actually not afraid in the slightest when facing the current him. Looks like this kid is not as easy to deal with as I imagined. I have to plan properly in the future. Lin Yi and Shangguan Laner, these two must pay the price. As he looked at Su Lingchong's disappearing figure, the corners of Lin Yi's mouth slightly curled. He has come with ill intentions. Since this fellow has returned, then he will surely look for trouble with me. I really have to be careful in the future. In the following period of time, Lin Yi rarely went out, and he cultivated behind closed doors within his own abode every day. Originally, he had already faintly touched the barrier of the peak of the initial stage of the Golden Core realm, and he originally thought that he would be able to break through in one go. However, he didn't know why he seemed to have encountered a bottleneck. He was obviously only left with the last small step, yet he was unable to cross it all along, and he didn't know where the problem was. Besides this, another matter caused Lin Yi to be rather surprised. Su Lingchong actually didn't come looking for trouble with him. During this period of time, Su Lingchong continuously attended various occasions, and he once again became the big senior brother in charge of the soaring sky pavilion, and his power and status gradually stabilized. However, the only thing he didn't go looking for trouble with Lin Yi. What was even more strange was that no matter where Su Lingchong went, he always brought Meng Tong with him, and the two of them were actually inseparable like glue. It even caused Kong Mingming to feel jealous in his heart. He had always considered himself to be Su Lingchong's #1 underling. Now, the trust and importance that Meng Tong obtained were obviously far above Kong Mingming, and what made him even more unhappy and bewildered was that Su Lingchong still insisted that they must call Meng Tong as Brother Meng. To treat Meng Tong, they must be at his beck and call with the utmost respect, just like how they treated him, young Master Su. Damn it, this is simply acknowledging an ancestor. What bewitching soup did this fellow Meng Tong feed to young Master Su? To actually be so good to him. This is too good. Moreover, the relationship between the two of them that was inseparable like glue. In the eyes of Kong Mingming, it was not at all like ordinary friends, or as simple as a superior and subordinate. The feeling it gave others was more like a pair of intimate lovers. Lovers? As soon as this strange thought emerged, it gave Kong Mingming a fright, and the more he thought about it, the stranger he felt. However, he didn't dare to ask much, and could only continue to serve Su Lingchong with a shudder. Kong Xiaoming wasn't the only one who had this suspicion. Everyone else who was close to Su Lingchong had the same question. Two grown men suddenly becoming so close to each other. This relationship was clearly beyond friendship. It was hard not to be suspicious. To be continued. Chapter 4186. However, like Kong Mingming, they could only keep their doubts in their hearts and did not dare to speak them out. They did not even dare to talk about it in private. If Su Lingchong knew about it, it would not be a joke. In this strange peace, the days passed day by day. The King of Rags was persistent, but there was no sign of it taking shape. Fortunately, under his persistence, the situation in the casting pool did not deteriorate further. It was just in a stalemate at the final juncture, which could be regarded as a blessing in misfortune. Not only that, but Lin Yi was also at a bottleneck. He could only watch helplessly as the peak of the early phase of Golden Core was right in front of him. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break through the last layer of paper. It was really frustrating, since it was a perfect breakthrough, and since he was the strongest master in the Gold Core stage. Lin Yi thought that this kind of breakthrough in the early stage of Gold Core should be a natural thing. He never thought that he would be stuck at this step. If other masters in the Gold Core stage knew about this, they would really cry. It had only been a few months since Lin Yi had formed his Gold Core, but he wanted to go to the next level without the assistance of any elixirs. How could these Golden Core stage experts, who had been unable to advance even an inch for dozens or hundreds of years, and who had no effect even after taking top-grade medicinal pills, how could they endure this? Since he could not break through, according to his past experience, Lin Yi knew that it was useless to rely on closed-door training at this time. He had to wait for a suitable opportunity, so he simply relaxed his mind and did not insist on breaking through in a short time. Bored, Lin Yi took advantage of his leisure time to refine some elixirs. He asked Hong Zhong to use the channel of the Hong Chamber of Commerce to send the elixirs to the Tiandan Pavilion in Zhongdao. This was something he had planned long ago, which could help to relieve a lot of pressure on Tian Chan. Although Tian Chan was also a master in the early stage of Gold Core, she did not have the magical pesticide cauldron like Lin Yi. She could only guarantee the quality of fourth-grade pills. As for refining fifth-grade pills, it was still very difficult for her at this stage. While sending the pills, Lin Yi also specially wrote a letter to the Will of Heaven, asking him about the bottleneck. Although the Will of Heaven did not have a perfect breakthrough, he was still a senior who cultivated in the creation battle art. His experience should be of great reference value. Soon, Lin Yi received a reply from the Will of Heaven. In the letter, the Will of Heaven said that although Lin Yi had a perfect breakthrough, he had just advanced to the Golden Core stage. It was the stage where he had accumulated a lot of experience. As long as he successfully broke through the first stage of the early stage of Golden Core, everything would be smooth from now on. At this stage, the key was to stabilize one's realm and accumulate one's foundation. This was a matter that could affect the entire Gold Core stage in the future, so he must not take it lightly. Therefore, it was not strange at all to encounter a bottleneck at this time, and it was definitely not a bad thing. Of course, this did not mean that he could not make progress from now on. Everything had to be done in moderation. Once he was stuck in the bottleneck for too long, it would not be a good thing. What Lin Yi needed to do now? Even if he did not insist on a quick breakthrough in a short period of time, he must also make the corresponding preparations and wait for the opportunity to break through. As for how to prepare, the suggestion given by the Will of Heaven coincided with what Lin Yi himself thought. It was the most stupid and unwise choice to blindly cultivate in seclusion. If he wanted to seize the opportunity to break through, there were only two ways: either by fighting with others and constantly consolidating the realm in actual combat, or by taking natural treasures and external stimuli to enhance the foundation. It was just that Lin Yi didn't have any of these two methods at the moment. He had lost his Golden Core a long time ago, and his days were peaceful. The only strong enemy he had was Su Lingqiang, but he didn't know why he didn't make a move. As for the people around him, they were too weak. He didn't even have a chance to find someone to practice with. At present, the only thing Lin Yi could count on was the trial of the 3 pavilions. Although there were no challenges within the Welcome Pavilion, if one looked at the entire 3 pavilions, there were many experts, and there were many whose strength was above Lin Yi's. In the blink of an eye, the 1-year period of the Welcome Pavilion had arrived. The newcomers of the 3 pavilions gathered in the lobby, each with a nervous heart, waiting for the final critical test that would determine their fate. Whether they could successfully join the 3 pavilions or not, it all depended on today. The newcomer competition was the most important event of the Welcome Pavilion. The 3 pavilions had sent their elders to watch the ceremony, and as the pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion, Hu Yunfeng presided over the newcomer competition on the stage. It has been a whole year since everyone joined the Welcome Pavilion. I, the pavilion master, would like to congratulate all the newcomers for finally having the opportunity to officially join the 3 pavilions and become an official outer sect disciple. Hu Yunfeng opened the ceremony with a smile. All of the newcomers immediately revealed expressions of excitement. They had worked hard for a year, just for this day. Once they left their status as newcomers and became official outer sect disciples, their status and treatment would increase greatly. This was something they had dreamed of. However, Hu Yunfeng's next words caused some people's expressions to darken. You're right. You're right. But unfortunately, this opportunity is only given to the newcomers who have already reached the foundation establishment stage. As for those newcomers who haven't even reached the foundation establishment stage, I can tell you frankly that you won't even have the opportunity to participate in the newcomer competition. In the future, mine well in Jade's Spirit Hall, cultivate well, and maybe there will be a day where you can make a comeback. But unfortunately, there is no chance today. Hu Yunfeng's gaze fell on the newcomers who hadn't reached the foundation establishment stage yet. Due to the support of Zhongdao Alchemy Hall this year, the cultivation resources provided to the newcomers were far more abundant than in previous years. The success rate of newcomers reaching the foundation establishment stage was as high as 80% or even 90%. But there were still some who couldn't be helped, such as Cha Wu of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Listening to Hu Yunfeng's sentence, Cha Wu's face suddenly turned ashen. Being sent to Jade's spirit hall to mine was the most tragic ending. Although there were indeed precedents of a counterattack, it was absolutely rare. Ordinary people couldn't be counted on at all. This time, there was really no future at all. Cha Wu helplessly looked at Xiao Hongkai and the others. He thought that he wasn't much worse than Xiao Hongkai in the past. Why was the situation now so different? He didn't know that Xiao Hongkai's cultivation talent was far above his. Just in terms of conduct alone, she had already left him far behind. Xiao Hongkai could follow Lin Yi with all her heart. Even if she went against everyone, she would never leave or abandon him. But Cha Wu, he was a grass on top of the wall. He only knew to lean towards both sides. Who could blame him for falling into this situation today? To be continued. Chapter 40, 187. As for the newcomers who have successfully reached the foundation establishment stage, although you are qualified to participate in the newcomer competition, don't be too happy. Hu Yunfeng continued in a clear voice, according to the usual rules every year. Each of the 3 pavilions will only accept 5 newcomers. Therefore, you must compete with each other. Only in the upcoming newcomer competition and get into the top 5 can you truly become an official disciple of the 3 pavilions. As soon as the voice fell, the crowd of newcomers suddenly burst into an uproar. This year, there were very few people like Cha Wu who had not reached the foundation establishment stage. But Hu Yunfeng's words involved the vital interests of most of them. Looking at the 3 pavilions, each pavilion had at least 12 newcomers who had successfully reached the foundation establishment stage. However, there were only 5 places for official disciples in the outer sect. One could imagine how fierce the competition would be. Among the crowd, those who were strong enough to compete for the top 5 were certainly worthy of celebration. But what if they failed? They couldn't follow Cha Wu and the other trash to Spirit Jade Hall to mine, right? That would be too much of a scam. Fortunately, Hu Yunfeng quickly answered their doubts. The newcomers who did not get into the top 5 can continue to stay in the Welcome Pavilion and take on some duties, waiting for the opportunity to be promoted in the future. The duties in the Welcome Pavilion that Hu Yunfeng mentioned referred to the position of senior steward. If one could become a senior steward, although it would not be as direct as becoming an official disciple in the outer sect, it would still be considered a good future. However, the position of a senior steward depended on luck, and there would not be a vacancy all the time. Most of the people who stayed here generally took on the role of an ordinary steward, similar to Kong Mingming's current newcomer steward, or even worse than Kong Mingming. They could only help Hu Yunfeng and the others, and did not have much power to speak of. After hearing this, the newcomers were relieved. As long as they were not sent to the mining area, it was still acceptable. At least they wouldn't be too miserable. Well, what should be said has been said. Next, let's get down to business. The newcomer competition will begin immediately. Hu Yunfeng immediately announced. The rule of this newcomer competition is that there are no rules. The elders of the 3 pavilions will be the judges, and all the newcomers will directly draw lots to compete until the top 5 are decided. As soon as the voice fell, Hu Yunfeng immediately signaled the senior steward of the 3 pavilions. He arranged for all the disciples to draw lots. As it concerned their future, the rookies were in high spirits. One by one, they went to their steward senior brothers to draw lots. However, when it was Lin Yi's turn, Hu Yunfeng suddenly spoke from the stage. Lin Yi, you are now an early stage gold core expert. According to the rules, you can skip the outer sect official disciple and directly become an inner sect core disciple of the 3 pavilions. You don't have to participate, Hu Yunfeng said lightly. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. However, when they thought about it carefully, it made sense. For a freak like Lin Yi, It was impossible for Lin Yi to defeat him. The other rookies did not even have the courage to face him, much less attack him. What was the point of him participating in the rookie tournament? However, to be able to become an official outer disciple, directly becoming an inner sect core disciple, this kind of treatment made everyone envious. More than 90% of the outer sect disciples of the 3 great pavilions. For the rest of his life, he could only bitterly stop here. The inner sect was something that he could only look at but not reach. This was something that couldn't be helped. To become an inner sect core disciple, the minimum condition was to successfully form one's core. This was enough to keep most people out. May I ask Pavilion Master who? Does this mean that I have nothing to do with this rookie tournament? Lin Yi asked. That's right. However, the inner sect core disciples of the 3 great pavilions also have an end-of-year examination. Moreover, it will start in 2 days. Although you don't have to participate in the rookie tournament, you have to participate in the end-of-year inner sect disciple competition. This is a special exception made for you by the elders. Hu Yunfeng said lightly with a hint of playfulness on his face. This arrangement was actually Su Lingqiang's doing. It was personally proposed by his grandfather, Su Yuanzheng, in the elders' meeting to embarrass Lin Yi, to be able to become an inner sect core disciple of the 3 great pavilions. Every one of them was an elite among the elites. Although Lin Yi was awe-inspiring outside, he was still a newly advanced, early-stage gold core expert. Compared to these old gold core experts, there was definitely a big gap. This year's end-of-year inner sect disciple competition was a heaven-sent opportunity to deal with him in a dignified manner. When Lin Yi heard this, he couldn't help but be stunned. He had already faintly smelled the smell of a conspiracy. However, since this was an official arrangement, he couldn't say much. He could only nod his head in agreement and stand aside as an audience. This news quickly reached the ears of Shanghai Laner. Although this little senior sister was naive, she was not stupid at all. She immediately went to find Shanghai Tianhua and wanted him to step in. Grandpa, it's really inexplicable. Little junior brother was actually arranged to participate in the end-of-year inner sect disciple competition. This is not fair at all. You still have the mood to practice calligraphy here. Why don't you step in and take care of it? Shanghai Laner shook Shanghai Tianhua's arm and pouted angrily. Hee, what's unfair about this? Lin Yi is now in the early stage of gold core, and in the last battle, he directly defeated Su Zhaohe in one move. Even some inner sect core disciples can't reach this level. If he doesn't participate in the inner sect competition, is he going to participate in the newcomer competition? Little on. Do you think that's fair to other newcomers? Shanghai Tianhua smiled disapprovingly. Shanghai Laner was dumbfounded by the question. After choking for a while, she said unwillingly, but little junior brother is still a newcomer after all. You can't specially target him just because he's powerful, right? Little Lon, although Lin Yi was specially targeted at the same time, he also got the title of inner sect core disciple. It's not a loss for him, right? What's more, in this old man's opinion, it's hard to meet a good opponent. Instead of wasting time in the welcome pavilion, it's better to have a good fight with these inner sect core disciples. To be able to get this opportunity, I think he's looking forward to it. Shanghai Tianhua continued to write and said with a smile, But even if he doesn't participate in the inner sect competition, little junior brother can still become an inner sect core disciple. This can't be counted as a reward. Shanghai Laner still felt unfair for Lin Yi. Since little Lana said so, it seems that we have to give Lin Yi some real benefits. Shanghai Tianhua shook his head helplessly and then said with a smile, So if Lin Yi can shine in this inner sect competition and get a ranking, I will guarantee him the position of the 3rd Pavilion Master of the Welcome Pavilion. That's all right, right? I wish everyone a happy Valentine's Day. If you can find your own campus belle or master, Don't forget to come to the Campus Bells Personal Master Tribe to participate in the Valentine's Day event. For details, please refer to public account Urine 22. Chapter 4188. The third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion was a position that was recognized as gilded. It had always been in high demand. Even the inner core disciples might not be able to fight for it. If a newcomer like Lin Yi could fight for it, it would indeed be a great benefit. The third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion. Shangguan Laner tilted her head and thought for a while, then reluctantly nodded and said, "That's more like it. Grandpa, you can't go back on your words. Let's pinky swear." "Okay, let's pinky swear." The old saying that girls are outgoing is really true. Shangguan Tianhua shook his head helplessly and said, "But let's make it clear first. This matter is only between you and me. You can't reveal it to Lin Yi in advance, understand?" "I know." Shangguan Laner stuck out her tongue cutely. A few days later, the annual year-end competition of the inner disciples finally began. Lin Yi went to the competition venue according to the notice he had just received. This place was not unfamiliar. It was the place where he defeated Su Zhaohe in one move last time, the North Island Arena. However, to Lin Yi's great surprise, this time the newcomers of the Welcome Pavilion were not only him, but also Meng Tong. Looking at Meng Tong with flowing white hair in front of him, Lin Yi could not help but be secretly shocked. This guy's strength was actually at the early stage of the Gold Core Realm. How was this possible? If it wasn't for the golden finger that never made a mistake, Lin even couldn't help but wonder if his eyes were playing tricks on him. During this period, Meng Tong and Su Ling rushed out together, but they rarely met in the Welcome Pavilion. Lin Yi hadn't seen this person for a long time. However, the last time Su Lingchong brought people to stop him, Meng Tong was also present. At that time, this guy's strength was only at the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Now, less than 2 months had passed, and he had actually become a master at the early stage of the Gold Core Realm. Wasn't this too strange? Although Lin Yi himself was an abnormal precedent, it was all kinds of adventures and the best quality medicinal pills. There were also all kinds of heaven-defying golden fingers. It couldn't be said that Meng Tong also had so many trump cards, right? What made Lin even more surprised was that at this moment, Meng Tong was walking with Su Lingchong. When they talked, they seemed to vaguely mention the word dual cultivation. Dual cultivation? Lin Yi was surprised. These two were inseparable, but the problem was that they were both men. Even if Su Lingchong was erased, he wouldn't be able to get rid of him. At most, he was neither a man nor a woman. He couldn't be considered a woman, right? How were they going to dual cultivate? It was really strange. In addition, seeing that Meng Tong was also participating in the inner court competition, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. This meant that he was forced to participate in the inner court competition. Even if it was really Su Lingchong's doing, this young master, Su, at least had not reached the point where he could cover the sky with one hand. Otherwise, there was no need to let Meng Tong follow him as a foil. Moreover, in fact, Lin Yi did not have much resistance to this inner court competition. The inner court core disciples were all masters of the gold core stage. This was a rare opportunity for actual combat experience. He couldn't ask for more. Maybe when the inner court competition was over, the opportunity to break through would come. From then on, he would break through the bottleneck in one fell swoop and become a master of the early gold core stage. That was a great thing. Arriving at the North Island Arena, at this time there were already dozens of people sitting in the surrounding stands. All of them were standing tall and could not be underestimated. These people were obviously masters of the gold core stage. At this time, there should be no idle people waiting here. Lin Yi guessed that the people present should be the core disciples of the 3 pavilions who participated in this inner court competition. Although not all the people had arrived, but at this time there were at least 70 masters of the gold core stage who had gathered here. In the end, it might even reach 80 or even nearly 100 people. Any master of the gold core stage would be an elite existence in other sects and forces. The three pavilions deserved to be the behemoth that dominated the entire North Island. Such a deep foundation was really not a trivial matter. In Lin Yi's view, the three pavilions were so powerful that even compared with the top sects in the Middle Island, they were not the slightest bit inferior. It could be seen that the other 4 islands of the so-called Heaven Stage 5 islands were definitely not as simple as the subsidiaries of the Middle Island. The inner court disciples had not yet arrived. Like the others who had already arrived, Lin Yi simply found an empty seat to sit down and wait. At the same time, he paid attention to the people present. The opponents that he would face next were among these people. While Lin Yi was observing his opponents, the newcomer competition of the welcoming pavilion finally came to an end after a few days of fierce competition. However, although it was fierce, in fact, there was a clear distinction between the strong and the weak. Even if everyone was on the same starting line when they first came in, after a year of tug-of-war, their strength was already worlds apart. Even if Lin Yi and Meng Tong, who were monsters in the early stage of the gold core stage, were excluded, the remaining newcomers were still clearly ranked. Taking the newcomers of the Blue Cloud Pavilion as an example, Xiao Ran, Qiao Hongkai, Li Zhengming, and Morongzhen were all masters in the early stage of the foundation establishment stage. They were undeniably in the first echelon, followed by the rest of the people. As a matter of fact, the results of the newcomer competition did not have any surprises. Xiao Ran won the first place without any commotion, while Qiao Hongkai and Morongzhen were both injured in the fight, and they ended up tied for second place. As for Li Jingming, he quietly ranked fourth. With Li Jingming's true strength and foundation, even if he was not on the same level as Xiao Ran, he was definitely not below Qiao Hongkai and Morongzhen. It was just that he was afraid of the blood feud that he had, so he did not dare to show off too much and deliberately reserved his strength. Anyway, as long as he could lock in the top 5, he could become an official disciple of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. As for the first place that everyone yearned for, he did not care at all. Other than strength, everything else was illusory. In the end, Xiao Ran, Qiao Hongkai, Morongzhen, Li Zhengming, and another newcomer of the Blue Cloud Pavilion became official disciples of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. As for the other newcomers who failed in the competition, they could only stay in the welcoming pavilion to do odd jobs. Newcomers like Cha Wu, who had not yet reached the foundation establishment stage, were even more miserable. Long before the newcomer competition began, they were sent to Jade's Spirit Hall to mine. It was an unspeakable tragedy. As for the Soaring Sky Pavilion and Mysterious Pavilion, the final results were also uneventful. What was worth mentioning was that the people who came from the common world, Soaring Sky Pavilions Kong Mingming and Zhong Pingliang, Mysterious Pavilions Dongfang Badeo and Lawless Fist, had all successfully become official disciples of their respective sections. In addition, there was also the Blue Cloud Pavilions Xiao, Ran, and Lin Yi, the heaven-defying freak. Putting aside their performance on the other islands, at least in the northern region, the performance of the common world people could be said to be brilliant. They completely trampled on the local newcomers of Skytier Island, causing a wave of discussion in the streets and changing people's perception of the common world quite a bit. To be continued. Chapter 40, 189. The newcomer competition of the welcoming pavilion had come to an end, but the end-of-year competition of the inner disciples had just begun at the North Island Arena. The inner core disciples of the 3 pavilions were all present, but what surprised Lin Yi was that not all of the hundreds of golden core stage experts present were dressed as inner disciples. Some of them were dressed as outer disciples, but their strength had reached the golden core stage. Listening to the discussion of the crowd, Lin Yi suddenly understood that the inner disciple competition of the 3 pavilions was not limited to inner core disciples. Even outer disciples could compete on the arena as long as they were strong enough. If their strength and performance were outstanding, they might be chosen by some big shot and be accepted as a registered disciple. From then on, they would have a meteoric rise. There were many such precedents. For the many inner disciples present, the inner disciple competition was also extremely important. This was a targeted assessment of them by the 3 pavilions. Whether their performance was good or bad was directly related to the allocation of cultivation resources for the next year, so they could not take it lightly. Finally, this year's inner disciple competition officially began. According to the practice of previous years, the person who presided over the inner disciple competition was a senior member of the Elders Guild. This year, it was Su Lingchong's grandfather, Su Yuanzheng. The rules of this inner disciple competition are very simple. It's arena battles. Similar to previous years, this year's arena battles are divided into 2 parts, 1-on-1 and 2-on-2. Su Yuanzheng looked around at all the disciples in the golden core stage and announced loudly, "I think you can understand this. After all, after entering the inner sect, it's not just a test of individual strength, but also a test of teamwork." Hearing this, the people in the audience immediately discussed and nodded frequently. After entering the inner sect and becoming a core disciple, they often had to go out to carry out high-level missions, which were extremely difficult and dangerous and often required teamwork to complete. No matter how strong a person was, if they did not know how to cooperate with others, it would not work. Whether it's 1-on-1 or 2-on-2, only the top 50 can get corresponding battle points. The first place gets 50 points, the second place gets 49 points, and so on. The sum of the 2 results is the final result of this inner disciple competition. If the final result is below 50, then even if you are not directly eliminated from the inner sect, the cultivation resources for the next year will not be given any preferential treatment. "You won't get any preferential treatment," Su Yuanzheng looked at everyone and said. When all the inner court disciples on the spectator stand heard this, their expressions couldn't help but become serious. When one reached the gold core stage, it was far more difficult to improve than when one was in the foundation establishment stage. If one didn't have the assistance of a large amount of cultivation resources, then no matter how hard one worked, it would be difficult to improve even an inch in a few decades of closed-door cultivation. If he really fell out of the top 50, it would mean that he would only be able to obtain the most basic cultivation resources. It would be good if he could guarantee that he would not fall. As for the next level, don't even think about it. All right, those are the rules. You can go back and prepare yourselves. You have 5 days to choose your teammates. The competition will officially begin in 5 days. After Su Yuanzheng finished speaking, his gaze paused in Lin Yi's direction meaningfully. Then he turned around and left the stage with a playful expression. There were nearly 100 golden core stage inner core disciples present. Some of the outer sect disciples who came to challenge had friends and acquaintances, and they all sat together in 2s and 3s. Only Lin Yi was alone, and there was no one around. At this time, Lin Yi himself had already realized the problem. He finally understood that he was inexplicably called to participate in the inner sect competition. It was most likely Su Lingchong's doing behind the scenes. His grandfather was the person in charge of this inner sect competition. It would be easy for him to do something. It was really sinister. With Lin Yi's strength and confidence, even if he had just advanced to the early gold core stage, he would not be afraid of a 1-on-1 battle with these inner core disciples. But the problem was that there was also a 2-on-2 battle. What should he do? There were nearly 100 people present, other than Su Lingchong, Meng Tong, and Nan Tianba, who was his archenemy. Lin Yi didn't even know a single one of them, not to mention any acquaintances. Who could he find to team up with? Even with the halo of the newcomer king, he had attracted a lot of attention when he killed Su Zhaohe. But after all, he was still a newcomer. His strength was at the bottom of the crowd. Moreover, the people present were not familiar with him at all. There was no cooperation or tacit understanding between them. Even if some people found him pleasing to the eye, The problem was that if they rashly teamed up with a newcomer who didn't know anything, what if they became cannon fodder? This was not a joke. The risk was too great. But if he couldn't find anyone to team up with, in theory, he could still participate in the team competition. At that time, Lin Yi would have to face a one-on-two situation. Unless these inner sect disciples received some benefits and secretly went easy on him, there was no chance of winning. Even if Lin Yi was the strongest Golden Core Stage expert who had a perfect breakthrough, he had just stepped into the Golden Core Stage. If he was in the middle stage of the Golden Core Stage, there was still a possibility of one-on-two, but he was in the early stage of the Golden Core Stage. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong looked at each other and smiled as they saw Lin Yi frown speechlessly. This time, Lin Yi had really been tricked by them. Hee, Chong Chong, this time you really gave him a big problem. I've known this guy for a year, but I've never seen him so troubled. Today I've learned something new. Meng Tong said with a smile, taking pleasure in other people's misfortune. Brother Meng, this is just a small punishment. It's just an appetizer. There are still many opportunities in the future. I must make him wish he was dead. Su Lingchong curled his lips with a vicious expression. It's best if I can draw him directly this time. At that time I can take revenge. Meng Tong nodded coldly. Since his temperament changed greatly, although Meng Tong didn't show that he was gnashing his teeth when facing Lin Yi, it didn't mean that his hatred was worn away. On the contrary, every time he felt the pain of his heart being broken, his hatred for Lin Yi would deepen. He didn't show it in the past because he knew that he didn't have this strength. But now that he was accompanied by Su Lingchong, the situation was completely different. He was now also an early stage Golden Core Stage expert. Although he might not have a 100% chance of winning if he faced Lin Yi one-on-one. But if there was a middle stage Golden Core Stage Su Lingchong, killing Lin Yi would be a piece of cake. He was already hungry and thirsty. Although my grandfather is the person in charge of the inner court competition this time, the drawing of lots is supervised by the Elders Association. It's extremely difficult to tamper with it. Whether I can draw Lin Yi or not, it still depends on luck. Su Lingchong shook his head, and then his expression turned solemn. It's best if I can draw him, but if I can't draw him, I can't lose the bigger picture because of a small gain. The inner court competition this time is the key. As long as I can shine brightly, coupled with my grandfather's operation behind the scenes, it's not impossible to directly get the position of the inner court's second senior brother. Chapter 4190. Su Lingchong was now an expert in the middle stage of the Gold Core Stage, and the position of the Soaring Sky Pavilion Steward was a position that belonged to the outer sect disciples. According to the rules, he could not continue to occupy it. Moreover, if nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely join the inner sect. With his ambition and means, it was impossible for him to be willing to be a mediocre inner court disciple. Even if he didn't have the qualifications and resources to fight for the position of the eldest senior brother of the inner court, he could still try to be the second senior brother of the inner court. In this period of time, he had been attending various public events. In fact, this was his plan. He wanted to build momentum in advance. As long as he performed outstandingly in this inner sect competition, coupled with his grandfather Su Yuanjing's secret operation, there was a great hope for him to challenge the position of second senior brother who was in charge of the inner sect. As for Lin Yi, I'll have to deal with him sooner or later. He won't be able to escape from the palm of my hand. Su Lingchong smiled coldly. After Su Yuanjing finished the announcement, the many Gold Core Stage disciples dispersed one after another. Lin Yi could only get up and return to the welcome pavilion, but he was very helpless and depressed. He did not know a single one of these inner sect disciples. Who was he supposed to team up with? Thinking about it carefully, in addition to the group of newcomers in the welcoming pavilion, there was also a rival like Su Lingchong. The people that Lin Yi knew in the 3 pavilions were not many, not to mention the inner sect disciples. Even the outer sect disciples were not many, and their strength had not reached the gold core stage. Shangguan Laner, Huang Xiaotao, Songjima, Ragged King, Senior Brother Bitter, and Lu Bianren. Counting them, Lin Yi only knew these 6 people. Among the 6 of them, Lu Bianren was strong enough, but he hadn't shown his face for a long time. According to Senior Brother Bitter, it seemed that he had left the island for a mission. They couldn't even meet each other, let alone be partners. Senior Martial Brother Ku Bai was very busy with the Welcome Pavilion, and his strength was far from reaching the gold core stage, so he couldn't help much. As for the Tattered King, he was not good at fighting. Furthermore, he had to keep an eye on the forging pool. As for Songjima, although he was loyal and had left a good impression on Lin Yi, he hadn't come into contact with him ever since Hu Kai left Tianwu Mountain. Furthermore, he wasn't strong enough. As a result, only Shangguan Laner and Huang Xiaotao were left. Among them, Shanghai Laner didn't participate in the year-end competition, nor did she have the slightest intention to pursue martial arts. In any case, she was an innocent girl. Since she didn't like to cultivate, Shanghai Tianhua couldn't do anything to her. He could only let her have her own temper. If Lin Yi asked her to form a party, she would probably be more than happy to help. Unfortunately, she was too weak and she wasn't good at fighting. Moreover, she was soft-hearted. It wouldn't be bad if they could be good friends. They could just fight monsters together. This time, the only one left was Huang Xiaodao. Lin Yi thought about it and felt that she was a rare and good candidate. According to the rules, he would be considered an official outer disciple. As long as they succeeded in forming their gold core, they could also participate in the inner disciple competition. Once they participated, they would be promoted to the inner disciple core disciple. The only difference was that if they performed well in the inner disciple competition, they might be accepted as a registered disciple by the elders. However, if they didn't perform well and no one was interested in them, they could only become an ordinary inner disciple and cultivate with the inner disciple steward. Therefore, as long as Huang Xiaotao could successfully form her gold core, she could participate in the inner disciple competition. Moreover, she had been doing trial missions in the Cultivators Guild of the North Island all year round. Her combat strength was also first class among experts of the same level. Lin Yi had witnessed this with his own eyes as early as when Hu Kai was in Mount Tianwu. Even if her jungle invisibility skill and powerful archery skill were not very good in the arena, as long as they were used properly, they would definitely be a threat that couldn't be underestimated. She would be a good teammate. Lin Yi immediately found Huang Xiaotao and told her about the inner disciple competition. So, I'm in urgent need of a teammate now, and I can't find a more suitable candidate than you. I wonder if you're willing to help me, Xiaotao? Lin Yi asked. Of course I'm willing. Huang Xiaotao immediately said, happily. She knew that Lin Yi rarely asked for help. Now that he was willing to find her, it just showed her position in his heart. This was a good thing that she couldn't ask for more. That's great. Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. Although he had expected that Huang Xiaotao would be willing to help, and he also felt that she was an excellent teammate, what if she didn't like to fight with others? He couldn't force her to do something against her will. But my current strength is only at the late stage of foundation establishment. I can't participate in the inner disciple competition, can I? Huang Xiaotao suddenly realized after the excitement, and she lowered her head and said weakly, That's okay. Lin Yi had already prepared for this. Hearing this, he smiled faintly and said, I can guarantee that you can form your gold core within these 5 days. Ah, how is that possible? Huang Xiaotao suddenly opened her mouth and said incredulously, I'm still 2 levels away from the peak stage of foundation establishment, let alone the gold core formation. Even if everything went smoothly, she would need at least 3 to 5 years before she could start preparing to break through to the gold core formation. If any accidents happened halfway, it would take even longer. forming her gold core within 5 days? This was simply a fantasy. In the knowledge of ordinary people, it was completely impossible. Do you still have your myriad golden dan fruit? Lin Yi smiled faintly. The reason why he looked for Huang Xiaotao was that Huang Xiaotao was not only suitable to be his teammate, but also essential. It's here. I haven't taken it yet, but even if I take it now, it's useless. This can only let gold core stage experts advance. It can't let me, a late stage of foundation establishment stage expert, directly become a gold core stage expert, right? Huang Xiaotao said in confusion. Then there's no problem. Come with me. Lin Yi smiled mysteriously. Without saying anything more, he hurriedly pulled Huang Xiaotao and ran directly to his cave residence. Huang Xiaotao was immediately embarrassed and blushing. While she allowed Lin Yi to pull her, she couldn't help but let her imagination run wild. What is Lin Yi going to do? He said these irrelevant words at first, then suddenly pulled her to his cave residence in the blink of an eye. Could it be that he wants to Aya? It's so embarrassing. Thinking deeply, Huang Xiaotao's face suddenly turned red. Fortunately, she was wearing a veil. Otherwise, it would definitely attract passers-by to watch. The two hurriedly arrived at Lin Yi's cave residence. Lin Yi gestured for Huang Xiaotao to sit on the bed and said casually, "Hurry up. You take off your clothes first." "Oh," Huang Xiaotao responded subconsciously. Then she suddenly woke up with a start. Take off my clothes?" "Yes, hurry up. We don't have much time." Lin Yi replied without turning his head while preparing at the side. Floating astronomy. Chapter 40, 191. Then. Okay, then. Huang Xiaotao agreed shyly. Her heart had long been tied to Lin Yi. She thought that she would be Lin Yi's woman sooner or later anyway. Although today was a little sudden, it was not unacceptable. Huang Xiaotao shyly took off all her clothes and then lay flat on the bed. She closed her eyes tightly, and her long eyelashes trembled uncontrollably. She was very nervous. Lin Yi turned his head and looked at her body that was as white as jade. He could not help but swallow a mouthful of saliva secretly. At the same time, he was also stunned. He asked curiously, "Why are you lying down?" "Sit up." Huang Xiaotao opened her eyes and unconsciously looked at Lin Yi. Her face immediately became even redder. She said shyly that first time, "Do it sitting. It will be uncomfortable. I heard. Don't girls always lie down?" Lin Yi was immediately speechless. Only then did he realize that Huang Xiaotao had misunderstood him. Just now, he was wholeheartedly thinking about improving Huang Xiaotao's strength. His mind was full of leveling up. He did not think about this aspect at all, nor did he pay attention to Huang Xiaotao's expression. He did not expect to be misunderstood like this. But now that he was suddenly reminded like this, and then looked at Huang Xiaotao's beautiful body, it was as if she was a ripe forbidden fruit waiting to be plucked by him. It was really tempting. I actually did not ask you to take off your clothes because of this." Lin Yi spent a lot of effort to forcibly move his eyes away from Huang Xiaotao's body. He secretly swallowed his saliva and explained, "I want to help you improve your strength. According to previous experience, because the true qi in your body suddenly surges, it may cause your clothes to explode. So, I asked you to take off your clothes first." So that's how it is. Huang Xiaotao was extremely surprised. Lin Yi could actually help others improve their strength for no reason. This kind of thing was simply unheard of. However, Huang Xiaotao couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Even if it wasn't for that matter, Huang Xiaotao was still a little disappointed. But now that she had taken off her clothes and the opportunity was right in front of her, why didn't Lin not take advantage of the opportunity to take her? Was she so unattractive that he actually wasn't tempted after seeing her? As the saying goes, a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. The focus of a woman's attention is never something that a man can imagine. Unbeknownst to him, Lin Yi was now thinking about the inner sect competition. From being inexplicably summoned to participate in the inner sect competition, to discovering that Su Yuanzheng was personally hosting it, and now he was forced to find teammates. The meaning of the conspiracy was already very obvious. A little carelessness, and he might be tricked by Su Lingchong. Now that he thought about it, it was no wonder that Su Lingchong and Meng Tong were a couple. No matter where they went, they would bring Meng Tong with them. Moreover, Meng Tong's strength had suddenly soared to the early stage of gold core. This was clearly the rhythm of him, forming a team with Meng Tong. But he was alone. How could he find someone to form a team with in such a short time? If it wasn't for the fact that it could increase one's strength. If Huang Xiaotao didn't have the myriad golden pill fruit, Lin Yi would have really been tricked by Su Lingchong this time. If he was really forced to fight 1 against 2, he would be helpless. Then he would really become the laughingstock of the 3 pavilions. While Huang Xiaotao was still letting her imagination run wild, Lin Yi was already ready. Without saying a word, he immediately grasped the pulse on Huang Xiaotao's wrist and began to circulate the art of dragon mastery. To increase her strength, you just need to circulate the mantra. Okay. Feeling the warm vital qi that was continuously channeled into her body from Lin Yi's palm, Huang Xiaotao watched helplessly. Huang Xiaotao watched helplessly as it rapidly fused with her own essential energy, growing steadily bit by bit. Only then did she finally cast aside all those miscellaneous thoughts, and her entire person was shocked. This was not an illusion, but a real increase in strength. This move of Lin Yi was simply a godly skill that defied the natural order. After 2 hours, Lin Yi slowly withdrew his palm. At this moment, Huang Xiaotao's strength was impressively already at the perfected foundation establishment stage. What was even rarer was that Huang Xiaotao was calm and composed at this moment. The vital qi in her body was like an arm, without the slightest feeling of being strained. One must know that even after taking a supreme-grade elixir, this kind of sudden increase in vital qi would take at least a few days to be able to control. This move of Lin Yi's was really superb. You first rest here and consolidate your strength. Give me the myriad golden pill fruit, and I will open the furnace to refine the golden pill for you. When you take it, you can break through to the golden core stage in one go. Lin Yi instructed. Oh, Huang Xiaotao nodded obediently. She immediately took out a small wooden box from her clothes, which contained the myriad golden pill fruit, and handed it to Lin Yi. However, after that, she suddenly came to her senses. What? Lin Yi could also refine the golden core stage golden pill? Just as she was about to ask, a situation arose. On the other side, Lin Yi had just nodded and was ready to start refining the elixir. At this moment, someone suddenly touched the cave residence's restriction outside the door. Huang Xiaotao was suddenly shocked. She was now naked, and it would not be good if she was seen by others. She quickly shrank under the quilt on the bed and wrapped herself tightly, not daring to show her head. Lin Yi frowned. Originally, he did not want to pay attention to it. Right now, refining the golden core stage golden pill for Huang Xiaotao was the most important thing. Everything else was fleeting. And normally, the people who would come to find him were Shanghai Laner, senior brother Ku Bai, and the others. When they found that no one agreed, they would naturally leave, and it would be fine after a little explanation. What Lin Yi did not expect was that the person who came had no intention of giving up. Not only did he not retreat, but he also touched the restriction more violently. If this continued, perhaps the next moment he would directly destroy the cave residence's restriction. After all, this was just a newcomer's cave residence, and the level of the restriction was very low. Anyone with a slightly higher strength could easily destroy it. In desperation, Lin Yi could only get up and open the door. However, the 2 people standing at the door made his eyelids twitch. It was actually Su Lingchong and Meng Tong. Pretentious leader, you took so long to open the door. What are you doing, sneakily hiding inside? Meng Tong glanced disdainfully at Lin Yi and smiled sinisterly. After holding it in for so long, now it was finally the time to hold his head up high. At this moment, his heart could be said to be indescribably refreshed. Even the haze of the heartbreaking pain that happened twice a day could be temporarily left behind. In his eyes, the day of Lin Yi being stepped on by him was not far away. No matter how powerful Lin Yi was, he was only at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. He, Meng Tong, was also at the early stage of the Gold Core realm. Moreover, his strength was obtained through dual cultivation with Su Lingchong, so he was much stronger than the ordinary early stage of the Gold Core realm. Even if Lin Yi had the record of killing Su Zhaohe in one move, which was also not to be underestimated, he could cooperate with Su Lingchong. Once they fought, there was no room for discussion. Lin Yi's glorious days were gone forever. Floating astronomy. Chapter 4192. How is it, Lin Yi? Have you found a partner? Su Lingchong instead spoke complacently in a superior manner. If you really don't have one, this young master can open his mouth and introduce one to you. Of course, you can also directly admit defeat and give up the competition. After all, the inner court grand competition is no small matter. Even if you're lucky and don't die with this little strength of yours, it's easy for you to be crippled. That would be too miserable, don't you think so? Both of you came here just to tell me this? Lin Yi glanced at the two of them and said indifferently, Then I really have to thank both of you for your good intentions. I can find my own partner. We can be considered to be old friends that have dealt with each other for so long. There's no need to put on airs before us, right? There's no need to be courteous with this young master, and there's no need to be embarrassed. If you need, I can really introduce a partner to you. I can't just watch you become the laughingstock of everyone, right? How pitiful would it be if you can't even find a partner? Su Lingchong laughed wantonly. Of course, he wouldn't be so kind as to introduce a partner to Lin Yi. Not to mention it was impossible for Lin Yi to agree. If he agreed, then he would be courting death. He didn't have to guess to know that this partner would surely be a person of his, Su Lingchong's. That person was absolutely a real time bomb, and there was no room for discussion. There's no need to say anything further. Both of you, please return. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with the two of them and was about to directly close the abode. You're in such a hurry to make us leave? Meng Tong had a rare opportunity and was about to ridicule them when the corner of his eyes suddenly swept the scene within the abode, and he was instantly stunned. At this moment, Su Lingchong noticed that something was off within the abode as well. There seemed to be a person curled up within the blankets on the bed. And most importantly, there were women's clothes that had been taken off at the side. Su Lingchong's face instantly went grim, and he spoke swiftly and sternly. Is it that bitch, Shangguan Laner? Although he couldn't be considered as a man now, and he didn't have any improper thoughts toward Shangguan Laner, his heart was still twisted. So long as he saw Shangguan Laner together with Lin Yi, he would be extremely displeased in his heart. His heart was extremely unhappy, and he wished that he could chop this adulterous couple into pieces on the spot. Without waiting for Lin Yi to react, Su Lingchong dashed in like an arrow right away, and without saying a word, he wanted to flip the blanket off. This wasn't completely a momentary impulse, but he had a plan. In his opinion, if his guess was correct, and the person on the bed was indeed Shangguan Laner, then as long as the matter of Lin Yi having an affair with her was exposed, it would definitely affect Lin Yi's future. If everything went well, it was even possible to ruin Lin Yi's future. It must be known that the customs of Heaven Stage Island were basically inherited from ancient times. Even cultivators were still very strict about men and women. If Lin Yi and Shangguan Laner were husband and wife, it would have been fine. However, the two of them did not have any status now, so they were unscrupulously together. If this matter was spread out, it would be more than just immoral. It was simply a slap to the face of the big boss, Shangguan Tianhua. At that time, they didn't even need to do anything. Shangguan Tianhua would be the first to not let Lin Yi off. Su Lingchong suddenly rushed in, and even Lin Yi was caught off guard. Seeing that Su Lingchong was about to flip the blanket off, he reacted, and instantly chased after Su Lingchong in a flash. Even if it wasn't Shangguan Laner, Huang Xiaotao was completely naked inside. How could he let Su Lingchong, this bastard, see it? Lin Yi moved later, but arrived first. He grabbed Su Lingchong's collar from behind, and then his true qi burst out and suddenly pulled. Su Lingchong was actually forcefully pulled by him, and he continuously retreated several meters before crashing into the wall with a bang. The strength was so great that it almost destroyed the cave abode's restriction. F***CK, you're courting death. Su Lingchong fell into a state of confusion and immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He crawled up and was about to make a move. After all, he was a middle-stage Golden Core expert and was only in a slightly sorry state. He didn't suffer any injuries at all. If he wasn't caught off guard, it wouldn't be possible for Lin Yi to succeed so easily. Meng Tong, who was standing beside him, was also eager to give it a try. This time, it was Lin Yi who made the first move, and he couldn't blame anyone else for seeking death. The three great pavilions had a rule that one couldn't take the initiative to attack a fellow sect member, but there was no rule that said that one couldn't defend themselves when being attacked. However, before the two of them made a move, Lin Yi was the first to sneer and say, "Senior Brother Su, the two of you are trespassing into the cave abode? The day of the inner court competition is just around the corner. And if this were to be known by the higher-ups, do you think you still want to participate in the inner court competition? Huh, you. Humph." Su Lingchong was suddenly choked and speechless. Only then did he realize that he had trespassed into the cave abode first. According to the rules of the three great pavilions, no matter what he did, it was wrong, and the other party could kill him. Meng Tong could only helplessly stop, but he still refused to leave just like that. His pair of eyes stared straight at the quilt on the bed, and he couldn't wait to reach out and pull the quilt open to see the appearance of the person inside. What? The two of you still don't want to leave? Does this mean that you want me to ask someone to send you away? Lin Yi stood between the two of them and the bed and said coldly, "We'll see." Su Lingchong retreated in the direction of the door, pretending to be weak, but he secretly gave Meng Tong a look, indicating that the two of them should make a move at the same time from the left and right. As long as the quilt could be lifted and it was confirmed that the person inside was indeed Shangguan Laner, then even if he was charged with trespassing into the cave abode, it would be fine. At that time, the focus would definitely be on Lin Yi, and this guy would definitely die miserably. Lin Yi saw the intention of the two of them, and he secretly thought that it was not good. The other party was in the middle stage of the Gold Core realm, and the other was in the early stage of the Gold Core realm. If they really made a move at the same time, it was almost impossible for him to stop them with his strength alone. Just when the two of them were confronting each other, there was a sudden sound of footsteps outside the door. It was Senior Brother Ku Bai, Xiaoran, and the others who heard the vibration just now rushed over. "Junior Brother Lin, are you okay?" The cave door was wide open, and Senior Brother Ku Bai looked at the tense confrontation in the room and couldn't help but ask worriedly, "I'm fine. Let's see if Senior Brother Su and Senior Brother Ku Bai are okay?" Lin Yi sneered and glanced at the two of them. You're lucky today. Brother Meng, let's go." Su Lingchong saw that the situation was not good. Although he was unwilling, he could only leave with Meng Tong first. With so many people watching, if they continued to forcibly make a move, even if they really found out that it was Shangguan Laner, it would not be good for them. Because in that case, the first thing that Shanghai Tianhua would do was not Lin Yi, but the two of them. They couldn't bear such anger. Watching the two of them leave unwillingly, Lin Yi was relieved. After telling Senior Brother Ku Bai and the others, He finally closed the cave abode and let Huang Xiaotao out. Have they left? Huang Xiaotao carefully poked her head out of the quilt. Floating astronomy. Chapter 4193. It's all right, they're just two idiots. Don't worry about them. I'll immediately refine an Aurus core for you. When you become an expert of the Aurus core stage, we'll team up and beat them up. Lin Yi said with a smile, and then Huang Xiaotao nodded repeatedly. Just now, when Su Lingchong was about to attack and tear off the blanket, she was really frightened. Luckily, Lin Yi's reaction was fast enough. Otherwise, her pure body would have been exposed. Lin Yi immediately prepared to refine the pill. However, just as he sat down, he suddenly noticed something out of the corner of his eye. There seemed to be something extra in the corner of the wall. It just happened to be where Su Lingchong had hit the wall. It seemed like Su Lingchong had dropped it there. And looking at the appearance of the thing, it was pitch black like an ordinary stone, but it seemed to contain a profound secret. At first glance, it seemed to be a little familiar. Lin Yi was stunned for a moment, but then his eyes suddenly lit up. He hurriedly walked over and picked it up. After carefully examining it, he was instantly overjoyed. It's actually a starring stone. Haha, Su Lingchong has given us a big gift. After Lin Yi confirmed it, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. Although the majority of this star inkstone had already been used up, and there wasn't much power of the stars and the ocean left. According to Lin Yi's previous experience, it was still enough for a person to make a perfect breakthrough. This time, Huang Xiaotao could also make a perfect breakthrough and condense the 10,000 gold pill. Lin Yi was just worrying about this problem. After all, Huang Xiaotao could be considered one of them. If it was just a normal breakthrough, it would be a little regretful. He didn't think that this idiot Su Lingchong would actually take the initiative to deliver it to him. He really didn't know what to say. This was really a good person who thought of others and was anxious for others. From Su Lingchong to Meng Jueguang and Meng Tong, this group of people had always done good deeds without leaving any traces. Every time they gave something, it would be just right, and each time it was bigger than the last. If not for the fact that he was straight, Lin Yi would have suspected that this group of people didn't really love him. Starring stone. What's that? Huang Xiaotao blinked her eyes in her blankets. This is something you can't buy no matter how much spiritual jade you have. You'll know in a while. Lin Yi smiled and began to concentrate on alchemy. He had previous experience. Now that it was the second time to refine a Jindan golden pill, the process could be said to be safe and smooth. A myriad crossing golden pill fruit, together with the supplementary materials that Lin Yi had given him before, finally succeeded in refining a supreme-grade Jindan golden pill. Although there was no extra surprise, it was enough. Lin Yi immediately ordered Huang Xiaotao to consume this freshly refined, top-grade golden core. At the same time, he helped her extract and condense the energy of the stars and the energy of the ocean from the starring stone so that she could make a perfect breakthrough. In the eyes of others, a perfect breakthrough to the golden core realm was a shocking feat. It was even rarer to help someone make a perfect breakthrough. However, since Lin Yi had his own experience of making a breakthrough and had previously assisted Tianchan and Sydney, he was very familiar with this matter. Time passed by in a flash. Huang Xiaotao, who was in the cave, had a look of disbelief on her face as she felt the changes in her body. Even though Lin Yi had explained it to her very clearly, she still felt that it was unreal. She felt like she was in a dream. I'm an expert in the early golden core realm. Huang Xiaotao spun around gracefully and said with excitement and fear. Before this, the gold core stage was only a level that appeared in her dreams, let alone the gold core stage. Even if it was the great perfection of the Foundation establishment realm, it would be very good if she could reach it within 10 years. If she really relied on her own strength to condense the golden core, she would not have such great potential. Even if she could, it would be at least a few decades later. Although she had a myriad crossing golden pill fruit, it was a holy fruit of such a level. It was extremely difficult to find someone to refine a golden core realm golden pill. Even if she found an alchemist of a sufficient level, she might not be able to successfully refine the pill. After all, for most alchemists, the higher the grade of the pill, the lower the success rate. This was common sense that no one could avoid. If Huang Xiaotao really took this 10,000 crossing golden dan fruit out to beg others, not only would she have to spend a large amount of spirit jades, but the final result would most likely be that she would losing everything she had invested. However, not only did Lin Yi know alchemy, but he also succeeded on the first try. Even if Huang Xiaotao did not have much experience, she at least knew that this golden core realm golden pill was a 5th grade pill, and it was the best among 5th grade pills. Ordinary alchemists could not refine it at all. For a moment, Huang Xiaotao looked at Lin Yi with a strange light in her eyes. Since the first time she met Hu Kai at Tianwu Mountain, she suddenly found that her life had become wonderful. Every time she saw Lin Yi, there was an unexpected surprise. The level of a golden core realm expert was so far away, but now it was easily achieved, and all of this was Lin Yi's doing. He had both strength and character, knew alchemy, and could help others achieve a perfect breakthrough. With all these things added together, Lin Yi was simply a mysterious man. Such a man was enough to move the heart of any girl, especially when he was so good to her, Huang Xiaotao. Not only did he save her life, but he also helped her recover her appearance and increase her strength. It would be strange if Huang Xiaotao was not moved by him. Thinking of this, Huang Xiaotao suddenly tiptoed and kissed Lin Yi's cheek. Then, she hid in Lin Yi's arms with a cry, her face blushing to the ears. Then, "Why don't you take me today?" Huang Xiaotao blushed and mustered her courage, whispering in Lin Yi's ear. One had to know that Huang Xiaotao was naked at the moment. Such a peerless beauty was rubbing against his arms, and she said such heart-pounding words. If it was anyone else, they might not be able to control themselves. Even with Lin Yi's amazing self-control, he couldn't help but feel restless at this time. He even couldn't help but want to do Huang Xiaotao on the spot. However, when he thought about it, there was not much time left. The inner disciple competition was approaching. The matter between men and women is attractive, but it is also easy to make people intoxicated and lost. The inner disciple competition is coming soon. I should help you consolidate your strength as soon as possible. Let's study together and discuss how to cooperate when the time comes. Lin Yi relied on his last bit of willpower and swallowed his saliva with difficulty. And then. Huang Xiaotao was stunned for a moment, and then she nodded repeatedly with an embarrassed expression. She blushed and felt embarrassed in her heart. I was indeed too anxious. At this critical moment, if I were to waste my strength because of this, and because the inner court competition that was right before us to be affected, then it would be too late for regrets. Chapter 4194. Oh. Huang Xiaotao lowered her head shyly. As she put on her clothes, she said, "I'm good at very few martial arts techniques. You should have seen them when we were at Mount Hutsai Tianwu. It's the jungle concealment technique and archery technique. That's all." "I see." Lin Yi couldn't help but ponder. He had already seen the power of this martial arts combination. In the jungle, it was simply a domineering existence. If it was used to deal with spirit beasts, it was a combination that could dominate the world with one move. However, if it was used to fight openly, this combination not only had no advantage, but would naturally fall into a great disadvantage. Whether it was the jungle concealment technique or the archery technique, once it was on the ring, the effect would inevitably be greatly reduced. And if it was 2 against 2, Huang Xiaotao would easily become the opponent's breakthrough. Lin Yi was not a defensive expert. It was difficult to take care of her. Their martial arts techniques were not very compatible with each other. At that time, it was very likely that Huang Xiaotao would not be able to help Lin Yi, but would instead become his burden. There were only 2 days left. The problem of mutual cooperation must be solved. Huang Xiaotao had just advanced to the early stage of the Gold Core realm. Even if it was a perfect breakthrough, her strength could be imagined. Among the many inner core disciples, she must be at the bottom. If her martial arts technique was also inferior, there was really no way to compete. In this way, the situation of the inner disciple competition was still not optimistic. Lin Yi couldn't help but ponder. With the combination of him and Huang Xiaotao, it would not work if he wanted to rely on pure strength to crush the opponent head-on. Moreover, because of the existence of Huang Xiaotao, the weak link, once they fell into a protracted battle, the situation would also be very disadvantageous. The only way was to end the battle quickly. And if he wanted to end the battle quickly, it was definitely impossible to rely on his own strength. He must also integrate Huang Xiaotao's strength. It was best for the two of them to find a way to complement each other and cooperate with each other to exert the greatest power. They would strive to kill one of the opponents in the beginning. Then it would be easy to fight. Xiaotao, your mental cultivation method is of the fire attribute, right? Lin Yi suddenly asked. He had already noticed this when he infused genuine qi into Huang Xiaotao, but he still had to confirm it personally. Yes, that's right. Huang Xiaotao nodded. I can make an issue out of this. Let me think. Lin Yi closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. After the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, he suddenly opened his eyes and slapped his thigh. That's right, it's this. At this moment, he was thinking about the joint attack mental cultivation method he had obtained from the Zhuang clan in the secular world. If this mental cultivation method was only used by one person, it would only be of little value. However, if 2 people used it together, it would be extremely mysterious. Not only could it perfectly superimpose the strength of 2 people, but it could also be used by 2 people together. It could even achieve the astonishing effect of 1 + 1 being greater than 2, forming an even more powerful combination. As long as this joint attack was used properly, for example, when 2 experts with the strength of the early Golden Elixir realm attack together, the power produced by the joint attack would be equivalent to that of the Golden Elixir realm. It was comparable to the full force attack of a late-stage Golden Elixir realm expert, and it was indeed extraordinarily powerful. What do you think? Have you thought of any good ideas? Huang Xiaotao's beautiful eyes shone brightly as she waited for Lin Yi to surprise her once again. There is a way, but what I thought of was a joint attack mental cultivation method. Now we only have 2 days. Lin Yi could not help but frown. Although the cultivation method could be changed once in the way of heaven, it was impossible for Huang Xiaotao to cultivate it again from scratch. Only 2 days was simply impossible. It was really too late. Moreover, he had not studied this joint attack mental cultivation method in detail. It was still unknown whether it could be used by a Golden Elixir realm expert. After all, this was a mental cultivation method that had been passed down in the secular world. It was very likely that it would be the same as other mental cultivation methods. After reaching the way of heaven, there would be no follow-up. Oh, then let's think of something else. It is indeed very troublesome to cultivate a mental cultivation method from scratch. It would be better if it was a martial skill. Huang Xiaotao comforted. That's right. Lin Yi's eyes lit up when he heard this. It was unrealistic for Huang Xiaotao to cultivate this joint attack mental cultivation method from scratch. But what if he created a joint attack martial skill? With the Universal Practitioner's Arts and the Universal Practitioner's Arts, it wouldn't be hard for him to create a combo attack as long as he used it as a reference. He had created quite a few techniques before, but they weren't combo techniques. Creating a joint attack martial skill on his own could be tailored for Huang Xiaotao. This was much easier than letting her cultivate a mental cultivation method again. Although 2 days were tight, if everything went smoothly, it should be barely enough. Time was pressing. Lin immediately began to practice in the cave according to his own ideas. Although it was only a short period of time, he had already thought of a very suitable martial skill in his mind, the Frenzy 8 trigrams palm. Huang Xiaotao cultivated a fire attribute mental cultivation method, so she could naturally use the Frenzy Fire Fist. In theory, she could also practice the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm. Of course, Lin Yi did not want Huang Xiaotao to practice the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm. Even if she could practice it, both of them could only use the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm. It could not be greater than 2, and it would not be enough to deal with the next inner disciple competition. What Lin Yi was going to practice and create at the moment was the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm. One person played 2 roles, continuously activating the genuine qi, fumbling and practicing. Huang Xiaotao stood aside and watched. Although she could not understand the martial skill moves he was practicing, she was now a new gold core realm master, so she could still feel the profoundness of it. Finally, Lin Yi slowly stopped after trying dozens of times. "How is it?" Huang Xiaotao asked quickly. "Not bad, this is the move, the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm." Lin Yi nodded with satisfaction, and then said, "Come, I will teach you now." After saying that, Lin Yi immediately explained to Huang Xiaotao in detail. From the tricks of activating the genuine qi to the specific moves, he taught her step by step. There was only one purpose, which was to let Huang Xiaotao quickly master it in a short time. In terms of potential and talent, Huang Xiaotao was actually far superior to ordinary people. Otherwise, with her weak background, she would not have been selected to the Soaring Sky Pavilion together with Su Zhaohe. Lin Yi's new fiery 8 trigrams palm strike, on the other hand, was tailor-made for Huang Xiaotao. He guided her through it step by step, teaching her the ropes step by step. It didn't take long for Huang Xiaotao to get the hang of it. Although at the beginning she was only imitating and did not have much skill with her comprehension, as long as she practiced well with Lin Yi in these 2 days, when the inner disciple competition came, it would be enough to come in handy. Every time she practiced, Huang Xiaotao's understanding of the Frenzy Fire 8 trigrams palm deepened, and her shock and admiration for Lin Yi also increased. Floating astronomy. Chapter 4195. In such a short period of time, they were actually able to deduce and create a martial technique out of thin air. Although it was only a single move, it was a martial technique that was tailor-made for the 2 of them. Not to mention creating it, ordinary people would not even dare to think about it. But Lin Yi not only could create it out of thin air, but this Frenzy 8 trigrams combined strike didn't have any signs of being put together at the last minute. Instead, it had a profound foundation, and its intricacies were comparable to those traditional techniques that had been passed down for hundreds and thousands of years. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, Huang Xiaotao wouldn't have believed that this was a technique that Lin Yi had created in such a short period of time. Not only could it increase one's strength, but it could also create a golden elixir, and now it could even create a technique. Other than admiring Lin even more, Huang Xiaotao was a little dumbfounded. There is actually such a powerful person in this world. Even the legendary miracle Dr. Zhang Liju wouldn't be as powerful as him, right? In fact, he might not even be as powerful as Lin Yi. After all, the legend of Master Zhang had only been passed down from mouth to mouth, while Lin Yi's miracles were something that she had seen and experienced with her own eyes. In the remaining time, Lin Yi and Huang Xiaotao stayed in the cave, practicing the newly created Frenzy 8 trigrams combined strike. Although it was a new creation, it was naturally easy for Lin Yi to master, and Huang Xiaotao was getting better and better at it. Her cooperation with Lin Yi was getting better and better, and when Lin Yi felt that it was almost complete, the 2 of them tried to activate it together, and the power was actually comparable to the peak of the golden elixir late stage. If it wasn't for Lin Yi's deliberate control, the power of this move would have been enough to pierce through the walls and seals of the cave. Huang Xiaotao herself was shocked, and Lin Yi nodded in satisfaction. Of course, he was confident in the technique he created, but he had only set the power at the golden elixir late stage, and he didn't expect that he had underestimated the power of this combined strike. Frenzy 8 trigrams combined strike. The power was equivalent to the full blow of a master at the peak of the late stage of the gold core realm, and the two of them were only at the early stage of the gold core realm. Such a martial arts technique was simply heaven-defying. If the two of them could increase their strength a little more, they would truly be invincible in the golden core stage. If they brought Huang Xiaotao along when they went out in the future, they could directly launch a joint attack at anyone they didn't like. Any golden core stage expert would be crippled even if they didn't die. Soaring Sky Pavilion. After returning from Lin Yi's cave abode, Su Lingqiong and Meng Tong were not reconciled at all. They did not intend to let Lin Yi off so easily. It was not appropriate for them to continue staying there, so they specifically instructed Morongzhen to keep an eye on Lin Yi's immortal's cave. Once she saw Lin Yi or Shangguan Laner coming out, she should immediately report to them. However, the two of them did not expect that they did not have to wait for Morongzhen's news at all. As soon as they returned to the Soaring Sky Pavilion's territory, they saw Shanghai Laner. The two of them were stunned on the spot and scratched their heads together. What the hell is going on? Why is the woman on Lin Yi's bed not Shangguan Laner? There were only a few female cultivators in the 3 pavilions. They could be counted on one hand. Except for Shanghai Laner, who else would hook up with Lin Yi? When Shanghai Laner saw the two of them, she turned her head in disgust. She pretended not to see them and was about to walk past them. At this time, Su Lingqiong suddenly grinned. He took the initiative to walk up to her. Junior sister Lan, long time no see. How have you been recently? Su Lingqiong greeted her with a smile. It's nothing. Senior brother Su, what can I do for you? Shanghai Laner's eyelids suddenly twitched. This guy has not bothered me for a long time. Why is he sticking to me like a piece of sticky candy today? So annoying. As Shanghai Laner spoke, the little curly bear next to her dragged the big scissors from before and swaggered in the direction of Su Lingqiong, cutting wildly. Those who were a little timid would probably be frightened by this little guy, especially Su Lingqiong. Last time, it was this giant scissors that cut off his family jewels. Now, this scene was simply like sprinkling salt on his wounds. That was not enough. He had to add a little cumin. Even Shangguan Lan was startled by this scene. She didn't expect that the little fellow would dare to provoke her. She quickly stepped forward and shielded it behind her. If Su Lingqiong became angry out of humiliation and decided to kill the little curly bear, she wouldn't be able to stop him with her strength. However, to the great surprise of Shanghai Laner, Su Lingqiong was not angry. Instead, he smiled indifferently, as if he did not take it to heart at all. If there is something, then there is really something. I think it is necessary to let junior sister Lana know. You should be mentally prepared first. Su Lingqiong pretended to be mysterious. Oh, what's the matter? Shanghai Laner frowned and looked at him. She thought to herself, this annoying guy, what tricks does he want to play? I just returned from Lin Yi's abode, and I found a woman on his bed. She had even taken off her clothes. Sigh. Su Lingqiong pretended to be regretful as he shook his head. But junior sister Lan, don't be anxious. Some men like to fool around as long as they have a bit of strength. It's human nature. Lin Yi is a man as well, and he has needs in this aspect as well. The reason why Su Lingqiong deliberately told Shanghai Laner about this matter was none other than to create trouble for Lin Yi. Since the woman in his abode wasn't Shanghai Laner, then he would use this matter to sow discord and let Shanghai Laner cause trouble herself. At that time, Lin Yi would surely be unable to take care of himself, and even if he participated in the inner court competition, his condition would surely be greatly reduced. Truthfully speaking, although Su Lingcheng was an intermediate stage Golden Core realm expert now, and he was proud of his success and had made a strong return, but at least he had learned his lesson, and he didn't dare look down on Lin Yi. Now that he was dual cultivating with Meng Tong, he would surely be invincible in a dual fight, and there was no doubt about this. However, if it was a one-on-one fight with Lin Yi, even though he still had the certainty of winning, he still had to be careful. After all, no matter what, Lin Yi had instantly killed Su Zhaohe, who was an intermediate stage Golden Core realm expert, with a single move. Su Zhaohe wasn't a simple figure, and if they were at the same level, Su Lingcheng admitted that he might not be able to win for sure. Thus, it could be seen that Lin Yi was similarly extraordinary, and he had to be on guard. So, with this opportunity to discuss Lin Yi, Su Lingcheng naturally wanted to make use of it. If he was able to make Shanghai Laner fall out with him directly, or even turn them into enemies, then it couldn't be any better. Even if he couldn't do that, he could at least distract Lin Yi, so why not? Really? That's great. Shanghai Laner's reaction greatly exceeded his expectations, and not only did she not have the slightest intention of getting angry, she was instead extremely happy. To be continued. Chapter 4196. Su Lingcheng was dumbfounded. He and Meng Tong looked at each other as if they had seen a ghost. Su Lingcheng still didn't give up and asked tentatively, "Junior sister Lan aren't you angry at all?" Angry? Angry for what? Why should I be angry? Shanghai Laner looked at him strangely, and then continued to jump excitedly. "That's great, I'll go and have a look now." After that, Shang Guanlan grabbed the little curly bear and walked briskly toward the welcoming pavilion, leaving Su Lingcheng and Meng Tong dumbfounded and unable to close their mouths for a long time. Chong, is that Shanghai Laner confused because of anger? Or is she just a silly girl? Meng Tong couldn't help but twitch his mouth. Looking at Shanghai Laner's cheerful back, it didn't seem to be fake. Besides, such a spoiled young lady didn't have such deep shrewdness and acting skills. Maybe. Su Lingcheng was also speechless. After a while, he shook his head hard and said, "Forget it. Let's not care about that silly girl. Brother Meng, the inner disciple competition is around the corner. Let's go back and practice together. The inner disciple competition is full of masters. With our current strength, if we don't cultivate tacit understanding, it will be difficult to shine." Well, okay, Chong, let's go back and practice together now. In this inner disciple competition, we must amaze the world with one brilliant feat. Meng Tong immediately said with high fighting spirit. The inner disciple competition was not only the perfect stage for Su Lingcheng to announce his strong return, but it was also the first opportunity for Meng Tong, or more accurately, the Meng Tong who had changed his temperament greatly, to appear in the whole 3 pavilions for the first time. There was no room for failure. After saying that, the two immediately left hand in hand, leaving the passers by looking at the two's overly intimate back, pointing at them and discussing in private. They walked lightly all the way to Lin Yi's cave residence. Shanghai Laner took the little curly bear to touch the cave residence's restriction. Chapter 4197. Lin Yi was secretly shocked at that time, but he did not think deeply about it. While Lin Yi was observing the surroundings, the gold core stage experts around him were also secretly watching him. To be more precise, they were observing Huang Xiaotao, who was wearing a veil. In the 3 pavilions of the North Island, there were very few female cultivators, and those who could reach the gold core stage were even rarer. Looking at the whole audience, Huang Xiaotao was the only female cultivator participating in the inner core competition. Apart from her, there was only Shanghai Laner who was watching from the audience stand. It was impossible for Huang Xiaotao not to be noticed. That Huang Xiaotao How did she suddenly become an early stage, gold core stage expert, and even with Lin Yi? Su Lingchong could not help but be surprised. He had a good understanding of the gold core stage experts of the 3 pavilions, but he had never thought that Lin Yi would find such a partner, which really caught him off guard. Lin Yi is really a playboy. He even wants such a disfigured woman. He really doesn't care about anything. Meng Tong sneered at the side. Humph, I think he is cornered and forced to find such a partner. Although I don't know when Huang Xiaotao formed the gold core stage, but looking at her momentum, she should have just broken through not long ago, and her strength is very limited. Su Lingchong sneered and said, Hee, 2 early stage gold core stage experts. They don't even know how they will die. Let's just watch. While the crowd was discussing, the inner core competition finally officially began. Today, the first one, Feng Tian, was going to fight one-on-one, and the opponent was decided by drawing lots in public. What was interesting was that Lin Yi, the famous newcomer king of the Welcome Pavilion, was the first to be drawn to the arena, and his first opponent was Yu Daong, an outer official disciple from Blue Cloud Pavilion. Yu Daong was an early-stage gold core stage expert from Blue Cloud Pavilion who had recently emerged. Before, he had always been unknown, and no one had ever paid attention to him. In comparison, Lin Yi, the newcomer king, was much more eye-catching. Everyone's gazes were focused on Lin Yi. Some were playful, some were contemptuous, and some were indifferent. Everyone wanted to see for themselves how capable Lin Yi, the newcomer king, was. With his hands behind his back, Lin Yi stood calmly at the side of the arena. When Yu Daong stepped onto the stage, his originally calm aura suddenly skyrocketed. A moment ago, it was still calm and tranquil, but in the next moment, huge waves surged into the sky, causing everyone's expression to change. Feeling such a terrifying aura, Yu Daong's expression suddenly showed a bit of hesitation and struggle. They were both at the early stage of Gold Core, but comparing their auras, how was it like they were at the same level? The first round of the inner disciple competition, Lin Yi versus Yu Daong, begins. The judge announced. This was actually an expert of the nascent soul stage. At this moment, he wasn't suppressing his strength, but rather revealing it to the fullest. This was also the first time that Lin Yi had seen an expert of the nascent soul stage in the 3 pavilions. As for the other big shots, usually he didn't show his strength. His golden finger couldn't be used beyond his level, so he didn't know the strength of Shanghai Tianhua and the others. He only knew that their aura was threatening. Everyone in the arena looked solemn at the same time. They were ready to observe Lin Yi's strength. Although Yu Daong of Blue Cloud Pavilion was not strong, Lin Yi was only at the early stage of Gold Core after all. He should be able to deal with it. However, Yu Daong's next reaction was beyond everyone's expectations. Wait, I give up. Yu Daong suddenly raised his hands and shouted, his face flushed. For a moment, there was a sudden uproar in the arena. The sounds of ridicule and abuse were endless. However, Yu Daong still didn't change his original intention. After glancing at Lin Yi, he turned around and left the arena. This scene not only surprised everyone in the arena, but even Lin Yi himself was a little stunned. The first round was the most ruthless elimination round. Once lost, there was no need to think about what would happen next. Normal people would try their best to fight for even if there was only a 10% chance. Who would be like Yu Daong and directly give up? If Yu Daong was facing an expert in the late stage of Gold Core who was several levels higher than him, or even higher, it was understandable. However, Lin Yi was only in the early stage of Gold Core. Little did he know that even if they were both in the early stage of Gold Core, there was still a huge difference in their strength. Lin Yi was able to kill Su Zhaohe in one move. With Su Zhaohe's strength, it was absolutely not a problem for him to kill Yu Daong in one move. Letting him fight with Lin Yi, wasn't that courting death? Yu Daong still had this bit of self-awareness. As long as one's strength reached the early stage of Gold Core, so long as one participated in the inner court competition. Then no matter what the final result was, one would surely be able to become an inner court core disciple in the end. The only difference was none other than whether one was fancied by a big shot of the higher-ups and was taken as an honorary disciple. That was all. Yu Daong had never had any background. Although he had extravagant hopes that one day he would be able to obtain the favor of a big shot, he knew that this was basically extravagant hopes. So long as he was able to advance to become an inner court core disciple, he would have achieved his objective this time. If he thought too much about other things, it would be purely fleeting and would only harm himself. Trash! Coward! Su Lingchong, who was below the arena, couldn't help but curse hatefully when he saw this. Although he didn't expect this unknown Yu Daong to be able to directly kill Lin Yi, he was still an early-stage gold core expert, after all. At least, he had to cause some trouble for Lin Yi. What the hell was the point of directly admitting defeat? Meng Tong, who was at the side, also gnashed his teeth in hatred. The inner court competition was such a crucial occasion, yet he made his opponent surrender without a fight. What kind of prestige was this? The reputation of Lin Yi, the newcomer king, was really resounding now, causing others to be envious to the point of going mad with jealousy. On the other side of the spectator stand, Shanghai Laner was extremely excited. Although she was very confident in Lin Yi, those that were able to participate in the inner court competition were all gold core experts. This was a completely new battlefield for Lin Yi, and it would be a lie to say that she wasn't worried in the slightest. Even if Lin Yi was able to instantly kill Su Zhaohe and possessed formidable strength, he wasn't someone that was easy to deal with. Even a rabbit would bite when cornered, not to mention a dignified gold core expert. Even if Lin Yi won in the end, what if he was injured? She didn't expect this Yu Daong to be so tactful. He took the initiative to admit defeat without saying a word. Little junior brother passed the stage easily without any surprise. However, Shanghai Tianhua, who was pulled to the side to watch the battle, looked indifferent from the beginning to the end, without any surprise. Hee, Grandpa, do you think this Yu Daong is a friend of little junior brother's acquaintance? Otherwise, why would he admit defeat so easily? Shanghai Laner was happy for Lin Yi while she couldn't help but ask curiously. With her identity, the inner court competition was nothing new. She had seen the excitement many times before, but this kind of direct admission of defeat was very rare. Even if there were a few times, it was because there was a great disparity in strength between the two sides. This was the first time that an expert of the same level directly admitted defeat. Wish everyone a happy new year. Today's 5 updates will explode. I hope everyone is happy watching. To be continued, that you're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.